Happy WrestleMania Happy WrestleMania week. We're already off to a terrible start. Happy WrestleMania week, folks, here on hashtag AskGSM, episode 594. I'm Graham GSM Matthews. Viva Las Vegas, baby, in just a couple days away. I'll be flying out with Alexis tomorrow around this time in about 24 hours, so I'm very much looking forward to that. But before we head on out, though, we're answering some questions here on hashtag AskGSM, celebrating WrestleMania week together, answering some great questions from Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever, and YouTube, and a whole bunch more in the chat as well. First of all, thank you to everyone watching live in the chat already joining us. I saw Richie there, Grunt joining us, Daniel just got here, which is great to see, Johnny, Alexis, of course. If I missed anyone, I apologize. We'll go through everything in a little bit. Thank you to everyone joining now live here on hashtag AskGSM. If you haven't already, please be sure to give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe, of course, which I'm sure most of you are by this point. Subscribe. Turn on the notifications to be notified every single time a video goes live and every single time we upload a new video here on the channel. So if you haven't already liked the video, please do so. Do want to give a quick shout out to all of our current channel members, and I'll give more details on that in a moment. But shout out to our channel members, a couple of which actually are already here. Alexis, Miss Maud Matthews, which you can probably take a guess as to who that is. Dillon DiGiacomo, Mrs. Renee, DJ Swerve1. You can find him on the Instagram at Swerve1. That is WON1, Swerve1. On Instagram, Daniel Malcolm, who I know is here as well. You can follow him on the Twitter machine at I'm Quarter, I, letter M, letter I, letter M, then the word quarter on X. Mr. Marceau, of course, my co-host for WrestleRant Radio, also a channel member, doubling as a channel member. Find him on the Twitter machine at RJ_Marceau. And last but certainly not least, find John Ritland, one of our channel members. Shout out to him. Also here on YouTube, Real Honestly with John Ritland. Check out his channel. He does great work. Please consider signing up for a WrestleRant All Access Pass, becoming a channel member for only $5 a month, unlocking shout-outs at the beginning and end of every live stream that we do. And not only that, you also unlock top billing here on hashtag AskGSM and WrestleRant Radio. So if you have a question here for the show, for me, a topic for us to discuss on WrestleRant Radio every single Thursday, you can send it on in, and I will answer it before anyone else is here on the show. So please consider that. In addition to, like I mentioned, shout-outs at the beginning and end of every live stream, and really anything you want me to promote, a social media handle, a website, a YouTube channel, whatever it might be. Discord access, which I'm still working on, looking to grant access everyone that's a current channel member to that within the next week or so. Obviously just busy due to WrestleMania week, but that will be up at some point soon. Badges and emojis in the live chat. You can see next to Daniel's name in the live chat, he's got a little WrestleRant logo next to his name. You can earn access to that as well by becoming a channel member today. That also pops up. If you leave a comment on the videos, a little emoji pops up next to your name. In the live chats and the comments and all the videos, the emojis as well, you can unlock exclusive access to the emojis in the chat during these live streams. And speaking of live streams, we have members-only live streams coming up soon as well. You can find those and unlock access to members-only live streams such as topic debates, watch-alongs, random live streams, whatever it might be here on the channel when the time comes, and so much more. You also get early and ad-free access to certain videos. So for anyone that signed up for a channel membership within the last week, I think that included all the WrestleRant Radio excerpts, my Saraya book review that went up on Saturday, my Dark Side of the Ring review that went up on Sunday, the latest WrestleRant ranks breaking down 10 mid-card matches at WrestleMania that I thought outshined the main event. That's happened at a lot of WrestleManias, but specifically the top 10 instances of mid-card matches outshining the main event at a certain WrestleMania. All of those videos you got ad-free access to by a few hours, sometimes even a full day in advance, here if you were a channel member on the channel. So, like I said, please consider signing up for a channel membership. You unlock all of those perks and so much more for a great value of just $5 a month. To become a channel member, I know on the desktop whatever, the fucking website, if you're watching on a laptop, there's a join button on the top of every video. On the channel itself, if you go to the channel, there's a join option. But if it's not on the YouTube app, which a lot of people watch on their, fucking browser on their phone or the app or whatever, you can find it in the description box of every single video here on the channel. So here's another thing to keep in mind throughout the week. For WrestleMania week, we have a lot of videos going up. Today, Tuesday, of course, hashtag AskGSM. More on that in a moment as far as what's going to be going on next week for hashtag AskGSM and my current plan. But tomorrow, hashtag GSM for GM, which was live the first 2 weeks that we did it in 2K25, not live tomorrow. We're flying out tomorrow, but the video will be available first for channel members and then go live for everyone else, ad-free as well for channel members before it becomes, full of ads or whatever, a little bit later on in the day tomorrow. So that's tomorrow. Thursday, WrestleRant Radio will be a live on-site edition of the show in Las Vegas. I have no fucking clue what time yet. Usually we try to go live around like 11 a.m. Eastern Time, noon Eastern Time. I'm still not quite sure as far as what time we will be going live. We'll be on West Coast time as well. I will obviously make it clear as it gets closer what time, East Coast time or wherever you might be, in the States, in the world, whatever, what time we'll be going live. But I'm hoping to do a show on Thursday, hoping to do it with Mr. Marceau. If he can't join, that's totally fine. Hoping he can, though, at some point on Thursday. So I'll be probably in the Vegas hotel room, and if he can't join, maybe Alexis can join him, we'll see. Or I'll just fly solo. Regardless, that's probably coming up on Thursday, a live edition of WrestleRant Radio, a lot like we did with the Royal Rumble episode a few months ago. That was live on-site in Indianapolis. This should be the same thing. So that's going to be very exciting, running down our full predictions for WrestleMania 41. Keep an eye out for that. And like I said, turn on notifications, because regardless of what time we go live, it could be early in the morning, midday, night, not exactly sure yet. Regardless of what time, you'll be notified if you have the notifications on. So that's Thursday. Friday should be my review of the WrestleMania 9 documentary that Peacock just put up. I started watching it yesterday. Very good stuff. It's called Becoming a Spectacle. It's about 2 hours long. Hoping to finish it later. Review it tomorrow. Have it up here on the channel for channel members first, ideally. And if not, other videos will be channel members exclusive first before going live for everyone else. But that should be up on Friday. A Dark Side of the Ring review of the Tony Atlas episode airing tonight on Vice should also be available this weekend. All the excerpts, if you miss WrestleRant Radio Live, I'll put up an excerpt of both our Night 1 predictions and our Night 2 predictions of the biggest matches on both nights, on Saturday and Sunday most likely. Monday, Alexis returns here to the channel. She will be on an episode of WrestleRant Ranks that we filmed last week, actually, after we were doing WrestleRant Radio, breaking down the best logos, really all the logos in WrestleMania history. Was fun to film, ranking every logo in Mania history. That should be up here on Monday. So Tuesday, the plan, because we are flying out of Vegas, back home next Tuesday, and that should be an all-day thing. So barring any unforeseen circumstance, I'm probably not going live that day. That probably just wouldn't make sense. So what we'll probably do instead is have episode 595 here of hashtag AskGSM go live on Wednesday. I should be able to do it on Wednesday. So just a heads up on that. On Tuesday instead, I'll probably just swap the videos and have the next GSM for GM video. Episode 4 of Season 4 go up on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, we'll have the hashtag AskGSM. So that's the full lineup of videos for the next week, a full week of content here on the channel for WrestleMania week. In addition to the usual shorts that I already pre-recorded some, those should be up at some point. WrestleRanter, Rave, WrestleRant, reacting to some non-wrestling related stuff. Potentially some interviews as well and content that we get from WrestleMania week. Alexis, I know, was interested in the idea of doing a WrestleMania vlog in Vegas. So if you guys are interested in that, she's hoping to do something along those lines while we're away, and we'll put it up when we get back. So that's the full lineup of content. Again, guys, I appreciate the support of the channel, whether you're a channel member or not. Just like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications. So I think we'll be good to go here in a moment. I'll start answering some questions after we get through the chat. A lot of you guys joining first. Alexis was the first person to drop a comment in the chat. She put first. Grunt was second. Johnny asked earlier on your thoughts on Mariah May possibly going to WWE. I know that news broke this morning. Not that she is going to WWE. It's the report that I know she was interested in going there, which she's always been interested. Going to WWE was ultimately her dream. She went to AEW instead about a year or two ago. And reportedly, and this has been the talk for a while, that her contract with AEW was up this summer, coming up. It's probably around the time that she signed, because I know news broke of her signing with AEW 2 years ago in the summertime, so that would make sense. I still think she stays. I know Mr. Marceau and I discussed this on WrestleRant Radio a few weeks ago when the news first broke of her contract expiring this year. I don't think she goes anywhere. I think she's still at the top of her game there. She's only, I think, 25, 26 years old. So my idea was, and I know Mr. Marceau wants her in WWE and whatnot, and that's totally fine. If she goes there, she'll do well. Mariah May is a star. If she goes there, she'll do well. My only concern is that she would be lost in the shuffle right now on any brand, even NXT. Like WWE is signing so many people, male and female, that I just don't really see a spot for her right now when they have Tiffany up there doing her thing. Charlotte's back in the mix. Becky will probably be back soon. Bayley is still there. You have Chelsea Green, Lyra doing their thing as the mid-card women's champions. WWE not exactly booking them very well, but they do have mid-card championships, and those scenes are kind of occupied at the moment. Liv Morgan and Raquel doing their thing. Roxanne Perez is probably getting the call-up soon. NXT already still has Jada Parker, Julia, Stephanie Vaquer, among other people. So I just don't really see a spot for her right now in WWE. I think at some point she will absolutely go there. If it is her dream to go there, which I think it is, I think she could easily just re-sign to the AEW. And it's not like they wouldn't book her well. She pretty much had the perfect run. If she does indeed leave, and I said this in a tweet right before we went live here on Twitter, I said if she does indeed leave, she had like the Jade Cargill run, where Jade Cargill was booked perfectly for the 3 years that she was there, however long she was in AEW. She signed in AEW and only lost 2 matches. She won every single match that she had, every singles match that she had, before finally being dethroned as the TBS champion by Chris Statlander. Left for a little while, came back, had a rematch with Statlander. That was actually the best match of her entire AEW career. Lost that, and then reported to WWE literally less than a week later. So if Mariah May also were to leave, she was involved in the top women's storyline and arguably one of, if not the best storyline in AEW's history in the last 5-6 years. From the get-go, she was introduced as Tony's biggest fan from the start. She was aligned with Tony for that entire time. She won the Women's Owen Hart Cup last year. She then won the Women's Championship in her home country of England at All In front of, 70, 80,000 people. Reigned as champion for like 6 months. Had a good reign, not like a great run, but pretty solid run. Beat a whole bunch of women, had quality matches. And then went on to have another 2 great matches with Toni Storm at the Grand Slam Australia show and then again at Revolution, which really should have headlined that show, but whatever. Like, if that was her last match, that, Hollywood ending match with Toni Storm, they had the perfect feud, and that was the perfect finale to her AEW run. Again, I don't think that's it for her. I do think she sticks around. I just feel like there's more for her to do right now. There's a higher chance that she'll be booked better in AEW at the moment, considering the success that she's already had. And, like, you could argue, yeah, she already peaked in that storyline with, Toni Storm. I know you can argue that, but at the same time, it's like there's always still the TBS championship. There's a whole bunch of women she has yet to really work with. I think she beat Willow to win the Women's Owen Hart Cup, but she could work with Willow again. There's Chris Statlander, Mercedes Moné, a whole bunch of other women that she has yet to really fully work with before she goes to WWE. If she goes to WWE, that's great. But I just think there's more for her to do before she gets there. Also, if you want to send in a question to the show, obviously you can send in a question in the chat. I'll get to it probably right now before I go through the scheduled questions. But if you want to send in a question ahead of time, which I always encourage, be sure to tweet me on the Twitter machine /X at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. I also put up a post on the Facebook page, facebook.com/graham.gsm.matthews every Monday evening, so you can drop your question there, if not on the wall itself of the Facebook page. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section of this very video. Obviously, after it's done being live, you can drop a comment on the video. I'll include your question in next week's edition, probably, like I said, next Wednesday instead of Tuesday. So we'll be back on Wednesdays for one day only. After being on Wednesdays for like a fucking decade, we'll be back on Wednesdays for 1 week only next week. Johnny says, as far as Taker's most underrated WrestleMania match, which we'll get to, he said Taker versus Ric Flair. I'll talk about that later on. Grunt was talking about Mariah May, saying Mariah May leaving would definitely be unfortunate, but at the same time, you couldn't ask for a better exit than the Hollywood ending match. I completely agree. Johnny, I completely disagree with that. He said Tony Khan needs to start doing 5- and 10-year contracts. That would be completely fucking ridiculous. The issue with Tony Khan, and even WWE, I know 5-year contracts are standard. I don't know if it's a company issue or a wrestler issue. But the problem of Tony Khan signing people like Malachi Black and Ricky Starks, the 5-year deals, is how he got in this shit in the first place, with them not being used. And, obviously it was their choice to sign those contracts, Ray Phoenix being another one, where you sign these contracts for 5 years, then you realize halfway through, okay, maybe I'm not exactly happy here, and I'm not being used, but I'm still signed for the next year and a half. Obviously, there's worse things in the world than sitting at home getting paid doing nothing. But at the same time, a lot of these guys want to go out and work, make a name for themselves, not become irrelevant or whatever. 10-year contracts are fucking ridiculous. Absolutely not. 5-year contracts are more standard. I just feel like a 3-year deal makes more sense. 2 or 3, I feel like makes sense. I'm kind of surprised that AEW signed Mariah May to a 2-year deal instead of a 3-year deal. I would strongly advise against signing a 5-year deal, even if it's your fucking dream job. You could end up unhappy or something could happen within the year that you're there. And then you're stuck there for another 4 years unless they release you or you work out an early release. So 5-year deals, I think, is very risky. 3-year deals are probably the sweet spot. 2-year doesn't exactly benefit the company that's signing them, which is why they don't typically do it. Because then that person can make a big name for themselves, like Toni Storm, or rather Mariah May did, and then just up and leave. She could just leave, which is there's a decent chance that she might do, reportedly. Like I said, Richie's here, Alexis is here, Johnny is here. Hope you guys are all doing well. Thank you so much for tuning in live. I'll get to some of the other questions and comments here in a moment. Tyreek Summoning Circle, Richie said. I hope Tyreek does indeed show up. Daniel, what's going on, dude? Thank you for joining us. I mentioned you earlier. Ryan Williams, thank you for joining us. He sent in a comment, said, after meeting the man at SummerSlam, I'm saying all of them, love them. I don't know what you're talking about. Are you talking about The Undertaker, Ryan? After meeting the man at SummerSlam, I'm saying all of them. What a drunken joke. Loved them for 30 plus years. Now I see the light, never to live in the dark again. I think Ryan might be part of a cult. Ryan, I think your cult is calling. I don't know what you're talking about. But be sure to like the video on your way out, though. Grun said, not a bad of a start as Paul has had, so you're good. Thank you, Grunt. Triple H making some very strange comments yesterday in an interview, I think with Fox News, which should tell you all you need to know. Some of the stuff he was saying was certainly questionable. I'll just put it at that. I'll leave it at that. Johnny said, you look like John Cena with facial hair and earphones. I got that a couple of weeks ago when I was wearing the same kind of green outfit, I know. John Cena circa 2012. I guess there's worse people to look like, right? Nathaniel also joining us. Nathaniel, what's going on, my man? Thank you for joining. He said, I loved Edge versus Undertaker at WrestleMania 24. So did I, hence the thumbnail of this video. We'll get to that a little bit later on. Taker versus Tyreek from WrestleMania 45 was a banger. The only thing I didn't like about that match, Richie, was the interruption and the involvement, the run-in from Love Ziggler. This bullshit. Aside from the Love Ziggler disqualification finish, the match itself was like Shawn Michaels Undertaker worthy. Nathaniel sent in a question saying, did you think Edge would have been a good choice to beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania, Graham? Do I think he would have been a good choice? Yeah, but the streaks, that's a good question. I think there was actually talk of that happening, and Edge, argued against it because he didn't want to break the streak. He would have been a good person. He would have benefited, but Edge by that point was already a solidified main eventer by the beginning of 2008. Obviously Brock was too, but Brock, I would have never broken the streak. That's kind of my biggest thing. I would have never ended the streak. If you were going to have someone end the streak, I would have had it be someone newer, like a Bray Wyatt or a Roman Reigns, probably. And when I say Roman, I'm not talking Roman at WrestleMania 33. I'm talking Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 30 or 29 or whatever. I would not have done it at 33 when Roman beat him again. That was just fucking dumb. I wouldn't have had Taker beat Roman, but I also would not have done the match at all. Let's put it that way. But yeah, Edge beating Taker at 24 would have been fine, but I think the whole story of that match was that Taker had never beaten Edge before, and Edge had his own undefeated streak of sorts at WrestleMania, he had never been pinned at Mania before, so that match had a great story. Edge had stolen the World Heavyweight Championship from him, on multiple occasions, and cost him that title. In early 07, late 07, Taker beating him at Mania was the only logical outcome for that match. It was the match, it was the outcome that made the most sense. But, I probably wouldn't have done it. Would it have made more sense than some other people? Yes. Nathaniel also said, I was stunned that Brock and Roman beat Taker at Mania, so disappointing. At least Brock, they capitalized on it. You cannot argue that Brock's momentum, the aura surrounding Brock, was not bigger coming out of that match. And not even immediately afterward, and then they squandered it. Brock was a completely different performer. When he first came back in 2012, he had an aura about him that they quickly squashed when John Cena beat him at Extreme Rules. That was still one of the dumbest fucking decisions I can fathom in my wrestling fandom. I just can't fathom that. It still does not make sense to me, even all these years later. And there still really isn't a good reason as to why Brock lost to Cena on that show. His first match back, no less. But Brock was just kind of after that. He was good, but he kind of felt like just another guy. I feel like him beating Taker, although I wasn't a fan of it then or even now, really did take him to that next level. And it made him that much more of a spectacle anytime he did come back around. More so than almost anyone else on the roster. Daniel said getting into Vegas around 3. Are you talking about tomorrow, Daniel? You're not talking about today, are you? 3 local time, I would imagine. Yeah, we'll be there tomorrow. Alexis and I will be there tomorrow night. So we're not really doing anything on Wednesday night, because we'll be there later on. We're leaving later, which is a fucking godsend. But, like, our travel schedule is, like, usually I leave first thing in the morning, which is nice sometimes when we get there early and we can hang out and stuff and do stuff in the area. But, like, if I can leave later and not get 2 hours of sleep, I am not more, what's the best way to phrase this? I couldn't be any more grateful for having to get a little bit later of a start time for that sort of thing, and actually getting some sleep before I travel, so I'm not falling asleep on the plane and I'm not miserable by the time that we get there. Nathaniel said, I also loved Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker at WrestleMania 25. I think that's Undertaker's greatest match. It is. I mean, there's no question about it. One of the greatest matches of all time. Certainly Taker's greatest match of all time as well. Alexis saying, I'm offended that you don't think I want to be on live with you, LOL. Of course I know you want to be on live. It's more so mentioning the fact as to whether it'll work out and whether we'll have you on the show. So you'll probably make a cameo. I don't know if Alexis will be a full-time guest on the show on Thursday. She might be, she might not be. We'll see. But I'm sure she'll pop in for a cameo if we're at the hotel room recording the show. Nathaniel also said, and Graham, I saw Minecraft last week. I wonder if they'll make a second one. I mean, they easily will. I mean, first of all, they had that post-credit scene, which I won't spoil, that set up a second movie. Second of all, it made so much fucking money. For as bad as that movie was, and I said this in the short that I put together last week here on the channel, the WrestleRant React short. For as bad as that movie was, it was such a fun experience. And not just for the kids in there that, like, were enjoying it, but, like, for the meme shit. That movie was so fucking bad, like, we clapped a lot. I thought it was because kids were enjoying it. I think I was in a meme theater. Like, now that I think about it in retrospect, it was a great experience for all the clapping. But I thought it was because of all the kids that were so diehard about Minecraft. I don't think so. I think it was a case of... one sec, I'm just checking something. You might want to mention the one. Alexis just texted me. I'm just reading what she said. Do it from the hotel room and ask people what they think. She said, oh, okay, yeah, I'll get back to that in a second, Alexis. I'll mention that in a moment. But as far as the Minecraft movie goes, it was a great experience probably for the meme people around me and or around us when Alexis and I both saw it together. And yeah, I thought it was because they were diehard Minecraft people in there, which there were, but I also think it was a meme thing. Like a lot of screaming for Chicken Jockey. Were kids doing that? I don't think so. I think it was more of a meme thing. So they definitely will make a second one for sure. And Alexis also said in the chat, my YouTube crashed. Did you mention the watch along? LOL. I have not yet, but I'll get to that in a moment. We were kind of batting around the idea for doing a watch along during WrestleMania. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. Grunt said, hard agree. Toni Storm versus Mariah May was fantastic stuff. I totally agree. Athena's also another great name to mention. She's awesome. Johnny said, Tony doesn't have a good track record booking women's feuds without a title involved. True, but neither does WWE. WWE also does not have a great track record when it comes to that either, so they're kind of on the same level as far as that goes. You also said more people might use AEW to get to WWE. I mean, WWE is the biggest company there is, so of course people always have. I mean, when Ricky Starks went to AEW, WWE didn't want him. And if they did, they were going to pay him peanuts. If Ricky Starks went to WWE in 2020, he would not be as hot of a commodity as he is now. He needed that run in AEW first. But a lot of people use the TNAs, the Ring of Honors, the AEWs, that are all great companies and big companies. They're not as big as WWE. For many people, WWE is the dream. So they'll go to these other companies first and use that as a stepping stone, a platform to get them where they want to be. Jade was one of those people. Mariah May is probably one of those people. There's a lot of people in that AEW locker room. I don't think Kenny Omega's one of those people. I don't think Will Ospreay's one of those people. But I do think the other people that I mentioned, among many others, are on that roster at one day hoping to get to WWE. Daniel also said, I cracked up laughing at Triple H saying that he almost walked out because he had to wrestle Ahmed Johnson. Did he say that? Did he say that in that Fox News interview or whatever the fuck he was doing? That guy has never had good things said about him. You know what? Ahmed Johnson has never had good things said about him. I will say something positive about Ahmed Johnson. You guys know, obviously, my replica Intercontinental Championship. Ahmed Johnson held that Intercontinental title, so he was on my list for a very long time of people I had to have sign that replica championship. He was at WrestleCon last year, and I found him. He was there, and he was actually very nice. He was there with his handler or whatever, and his handler was also nice, and I mentioned why I was getting his autograph on the championship, and I'm never fucking selling that thing, because a lot of people probably think I would, because a lot of people would. I'm not going to. But anyway, he was very nice. When I met Ahmed, he was very cool. He was very respectful of the fact that I wanted to meet him, that I wanted to get his autograph, and it was a short interaction, but he was very cool. So I will say something nice about Ahmed Johnson. Richie said they had to protect Taker somehow since he couldn't even run the ropes, but I agree. Love Ziggler ending fell flat. Indeed, Richie. Talking about the Love Ziggler run-in during Tyreek versus Taker at WrestleMania 45. Nathaniel said earlier on, I didn't like when Cena beat Nexus, Graham. Yeah, that was fucking terrible. That was completely unnecessary and absolutely awful. Richie said, didn't Brock allegedly have a fit backstage after that Extreme Rules 2012 match because Cena talked to the crowd after saying he was going to take time off and no-sold the beating he took? Yes, I do remember that. Because Cena was supposed to take time off, and then he fucking didn't. He was back the next day feuding with John Laurinaitis. Completely ridiculous. That whole thing was weird. Cena winning. Brock dominated the match, and then Cena won anyway, which was stupid. Cena then no-selling the broken arm from the Kimura or whatever, and then Brock was pissed. Brock ended up leaving right after that match. It just none of that made any sense at all. It was just absolutely bizarre. Richie also said, Triple H beating Brock in Mania 29 did him no favors either. I agree. I mean, it made sense because Brock beat Triple H at SummerSlam. Triple H wanted that win back. I will say Triple H did end up going 1-2 against Brock. They had a rematch, a third match at Extreme Rules the next month. That was probably the best match that they had together. Their matches were good. They weren't great. They were good matches. Largely boring, but they were good. Brock ended up beating him at Extreme Rules. So at least Brock ended up getting more matches or more wins over Triple H than the other way around. But yeah, Brock losing twice in the span of a year at that point, not exactly how I would have booked him personally. Johnny said Vince wanted a little payback for Brock leaving during 2004. He probably did. Honestly, I could believe that. Blue Kyber Crystal, what's going on, my man? Thank you for joining. He said, I once read that Brock lost to Cena because Vince didn't trust Brock to stick around to that point. Possible. The thing is, we all have these theories. We'll never actually know. Brock, one, doesn't do interviews, nor does he give a fuck. John Cena probably doesn't know. I doubt John Cena lobbied to win that match. He doesn't, for that sort of thing, I would think he didn't give a shit. The only person who really has the answer to that, I think, would be Vince McMahon, and we'll never find out. Nathaniel said, Graham, how would you feel if Shawn Michaels beat The Undertaker at Mania 25? At the time, I probably wouldn't have really cared. I mean, I was still an early fan at that point. I had just started watching a year earlier, so I wouldn't have seen it as big of a deal as it was at WrestleMania 30 when it finally happened. But I think it would have been cool. Honestly, with that being one of the greatest matches of all time, that being where the streak finally ended, I think in retrospect, I would have been okay with that. I still would have never ended the streak, and Shawn wouldn't have benefited because he was on his way out anyway. And again, that was also a lot like with Edge. Part of the story was Taker had never beaten Shawn before. So could they have had a rematch at 26 like they did, but this time after Shawn beat Triple H at 25, Taker wants to avenge that loss at 26, and if he doesn't, then he's done. He has to retire? Maybe. That could have worked, but I still wouldn't have ended the streak. Daniel Malcolm said Cena beating Brock at Extreme Rules 2012 still ticks me off. I mean, at least it was a great match. At the very least, it was a great match. Richie said, I also agree, Richie, that Blue Kyber Crystal name. We said that on the stream when Alexis was on. It's a great fucking name. Love the Star Wars reference. Richie also said, only good part of Cena and Lesnar at Extreme Rules 2012 was the Chicago crowd rallying behind Cena for getting his ass beat. Losing the match would have gotten him more over in retrospect. Not that he needed it. I love that match. You said only good part. I think the match is excellent. I think that match is great. But I forgot that match was in Chicago. Daniel said Triple H said the Ahmed thing in the interview with Andrew Schultz. Oh, okay, that's what it was. He's done so many interviews, it feels like. I know he did one with Fox News and a whole bunch of other like media outlets and shit. I forgot what he said to who. Grunt said, I don't get people who get stuff signed just to sell it on eBay. Nah, I'm taking all of my signed stuff to the grave. I get it. I mean, they want to make money off of it. They want to. It's easier for them to meet these people, as weird as it fucking is. It's easier for them to meet these people. And even if they have to pay for it, like some of these people will go to World or they'll go to whatever and, they'll have these things signed and then flip them on eBay for a higher price than they paid for it. That's just what they do. That is what some people do for a living. I think it's ridiculous, but that's just what some people do. I would not do that. If I were to see a wrestler, and we have seen wrestlers at the airport, I don't think I've ever bothered. That's actually not true. I was going to say I've never bothered a wrestler at the airport. I did twice. Not when they were flying in, though. Alexis and I saw like the New Day at one point, among other people, Bianca, the Prophets and shit. All of whom I've met before, so it's not like, oh, I want to meet this person for the first time. I had met and interviewed all of those people before, so it wasn't that big of a deal to like go get a picture. One, I would never get an autograph from someone at the airport. Even if it was to sign my belt, probably, depending on who it is, I probably wouldn't do it. I feel like that's fucking weird. Two, I've never gotten a picture or an autograph from someone at the airport when they were flying in. And I wouldn't wait in a mob of people. I think that's weird. The two times I had done it were on the same day. Alexis knows what I'm talking about because she was there. It was when we were leaving Indianapolis. Yeah, not Indianapolis. Cleveland for SummerSlam last year. We had just gotten to the airport. They were flying out like we were flying out. And we got there. We checked our bags and shit. And I saw Big E. I got a picture with him. I had met Big E before. We were at like an NIL dinner with him a few years earlier, which he remembered when I mentioned that to him, and he was really nice. Big E's awesome. And he was like, it's not like if they were in the middle of doing something, I probably wouldn't have done it. But he was just hanging out talking to someone. So, and I thought he was talking to a fan. He was actually talking to someone he worked with. But, he was really nice. And then that same day, right before we boarded our flight, Alexis was going to the bathroom and passed by LA Knight. Now, that one was more important to me because I had interviewed Knight before, but had never met him. He was one of the only people, one of my only favorite wrestlers I had never met before. So him, after she saw him, I found him, interacted with him real quickly. Not in the fucking bathroom or anything. It was like he had just walked in to like eat or whatever. But it's not like he was eating. He had just sat down. So I felt weird doing it, but he was really cool. We got a picture and that was it. Those are the only two times I've done it, and they were in the same day. Beyond that, I probably wouldn't. I wouldn't go out of my way to do it. Daniel said, I meant more so his peers never say anything nice. Yeah, no, I know what you meant about Ahmed Johnson. Because he just wasn't great in the ring. But he was nice with me. I'm not his peer, but he was nice with me. D Professor, what's going on, my man? Thank you for joining. Hope you're doing well. He sent in a question, or sent in a comment saying, his match against Triple H at Mania 17 is also great. 15 to 20-minute normal match turned into a no DQ, and the ref was almost down for 10-15 minutes. Talking about the Taker Triple H Mania match. That match was great. That's a great match. I think it's weaker than the... I don't know, actually. The Mania 17 match might be better than the WrestleMania 27 match. I'd have to watch both back. They're two great matches, though. Daniel said Brock looked like a whiny biatch in that steel cage match. I only watched it once or twice, and I never watched it again. And that might have been the best of their three matches that they had together, but I don't remember much else about it otherwise. Triple H wants wins, Daniel said. Even when he didn't need it, yes, he did. That is definitely true. Pepperidge Farm remembers, Daniel said. Ahmed said, Sup, Graham, happy WrestleMania week. Ahmed, what's going on, my man? Thank you for joining. Happy WrestleMania week. As you know, I'm not excited about the build-up, but hopefully the two nights can deliver. I mean, that's just the general consensus. You are not alone, Ahmed, in feeling that way. The build-up has been all over the place. It has largely not been great, but honestly, I can say that for almost every road to WrestleMania in the last 10, 15 years. They've almost never been great. I can't sit here and tell you the worst WrestleMania build of all time. The build to Mania 29, I know, largely sucked. I remember that, and worse than that, the show itself sucked. So, like, the build was bad, but it's like, oh, yeah, the show is going to be great. No, the show was actually worse than the build, for whatever that's worth. So, yeah, I think the two nights will deliver, though, given the card on paper. Night 2, I think, has a slight better chance of being better than night 1. But I think it's an overall Good card. Richie said, I loved it too. Just the ending was silly. Cena didn't need an immediate win after Mania, especially against a returning Lesnar. That's what fucking pissed me off. He lost the Rock in Mania, which shocked me. I really thought Cena was winning at Mania 28. And they were going to do this, which they ended up doing this anyway. But, like, they did it all wrong is the issue. They could have done this whole arc where Cena did not win for months. Like, they were telling this story that he was down on his luck. And they told that story going into the rematch with The Rock at WrestleMania 29. The issue is they showed all the parts where he did lose, but not the matches where he won. So, like, in the year in between that first Rock match and the second Rock match, yeah, he lost a fair amount of matches on pay-per-view. But he also won a fair amount of matches as well. He beat Brock, which was fucking dumb. He lost to Laurinaitis, which they showed in the video package, which was also ridiculous. But then he ended up beating Big Show and got his win back the next month. He beat Big Show at whatever that pay-per-view was. Payback, No Way Out, whatever. And then beat Laurinaitis in like a handicap match with Big Show, I think, the next night on Raw. Which got John Laurinaitis fired, officially, in storyline. So, like, he overcame the odds there. He won fucking Money in the Bank that July. And I don't think he won a match on pay-per-view after that. He lost a lot of matches. He lost it, he failed to win the title at Raw 1000. SummerSlam, he did not win. Didn't get pinned, I don't think, but he didn't win. Night of Champions, the match ended in a draw, I think, with Cena. Didn't win, but he didn't get beaten. Hell in the Cell, he didn't wrestle. Survivor Series, he didn't get pinned. He lost, but he didn't get pinned again. TLC, what did he do with TLC? Oh, he faced Ziggler, and he lost that match, which was cool. But then he won the Rumble, so it's like he won a fair amount of matches during that period. Anyway, Richie also said Cena taking some L's as karma for winning all the time and rebuilding himself to a rematch against Rock again at Mania would have made for a better story. I agree. He also said Kevin Owens does it best. He tells people he doesn't do autographs, just photos, gets all the loser scalpers away. Yeah, I heard that story that he was telling on Chris Van Vliet. I told this story on Twitter when I saw that clip. I responded to that clip with my own story. I'll keep this brief, but when I saw him at the Royal Rumble, I was there by myself. I waited in line to have him, not at the airport, but like at the World shit. I waited in line to have him sign the belt, but he was already taking pictures with everyone. And it said specifically on the sign that you can't do that. Like if you were in line for an autograph, you couldn't get a picture with him. Kevin Owens didn't give a shit. Everyone that asked for a picture, he took a picture with them, including myself. And the best part about it, which honestly meant the world to me, he actually remembered me from the last time I had seen him like a year and a half ago. And I had seen him a year and a half ago, and he remembered me there as well. I've only met Kevin Owens like a few times in person, and I've interviewed him a few other times. For whatever reason, he knows who I am, and he said I was one of the good ones, which is a compliment, and that meant a lot to me. Not only the fact that he said that, but also the fact that he remembered me, because a lot of those people don't, which I don't expect them to. But I think if someone remembers you, like I made enough of an impression on that person, in a good way usually, hopefully not in a bad way. He remembered me, and he was very cool. He was very nice, signed the belt. He was cool about that, took a picture, awesome about that. Fucking love Kevin Owens. All the best to him on his road to recovery. Fernando, what's going on, my man? He said, what's up, everyone? Fernando, hope you're doing well. Thanks for joining. He also said, Big E seems like a very nice guy in real life. He is. Big E is one of the nicest people we've ever met. She's awesome. Johnny said, hopefully Tony takes notes of many interviews and press WWE does this week and rivals that for All In Week. He probably won't. AEW just doesn't work that way. They're getting better with that sort of stuff. Honestly, I think it's more important for them to do interviews with like the local media so they can boost their ticket sales, as opposed to people like me and online digital media and shit. But hopefully they do more of it. I think they could really stand to benefit from that. Grunt said, photos over autographs for real. I would always go for a photo over an autograph. The only autographs I get if I pay for an autograph is for the belt. That's it. I always prefer photos. Fernando also said, I also believe Triple H versus Taker Mania 17 was their best match. Interesting. I think their best match was in Mania 28. I'm very partial to that match. I think that match is excellent. I prefer that match personally. Grunt said, figure I fall out of wrestling watching WWE when it's easier than ever to tune in. Why couldn't this Netflix deal happen 10 or 15 years ago? So, yeah, Grunt does not watch WWE now. But yeah, the Netflix deal, it would have been nice if it happened 10, 15 years ago. When it wasn't only on cable, it could have been on Netflix too. That would have been perfect. Daniel said, you'd think Triple H was the only person going into the Hall of Fame this year with all the highlight packages for him on the shows, LOL. Listen, I get it. He's the headliner. They want to make a big deal about it. First of all, I skip over him. It's all footage we've seen before. Second of all, they had a video package for the natural disasters. I saw them put it on their social media, and they probably put it on their website and shit. They did not air that on television. They just put up a fucking graphic saying, oh yeah, they're going in. Okay, where's their video package? Why don't they air the video packages for the other people going into the Hall of Fame? Like Michelle McCool, they just showed like the news clippings of her going in, not the package explaining why she's Hall of Fame worthy. Instead, they're spending that time airing highlights of Triple H's career, which I don't think they've done with anyone else in the last fucking 30 years. Maybe they did and I just don't remember it. But most people, they just put up their video package for when they're going in, and that's it. Yeah, who's getting inducted this year, Alexis asked? Yeah, exactly. Fernando said Cena should have turned heel after losing to The Rock at the first Rock Cena match. Apparently that was the plan. They didn't do it. Vince got cold feet, but apparently that was the plan. I always used to call him Lex Loser for some reason, Daniel said. Were you a little mini Daniel Malcolm Mark back in the 90s, Daniel, calling him Lex Loser? Or was that after he played a part in Miss Elizabeth's death and you just weren't happy with the guy and you called him Lex Loser instead? That is funny, though. Alexis said, I had a coworker at Home Depot that called me Lex Luger. Yeah, that's, her nickname is Lex. I don't call her Lex, but other people do. Zelina Vega also loves Graham too. I don't think she remembered me the last time that I saw her, but she was very nice when I talked to her a few years ago. Zelina Vega, if you're cool, honestly, if I don't give a fuck about you on TV, like I could become a fan of you if you say something nice, not about me, but like, I'm talking about like the superstars here. Like there's a lot of people like Natalya, for example. When I interviewed her the first time a few years ago, she was whatever. I talked to her over Rumble weekend. She was actually very nice. She said some nice things to me after we were done. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to buy a Natalya t-shirt. I still don't really give a shit about your on-screen character. But I like you, Natalya. That was a nice thing for you to say. I appreciate it. You didn't have to do that. Johnny said, you're one of the good ones in the YouTube wrestling section. Thank you, Johnny. I appreciate that. There's a lot of good ones out there. LOL, Daniel asked Tyreek. Is Lex Luger your Love Ziggler nickname, Daniel asked Alexis? I think it might be. Tyreek's got to pop up. Dolph, I don't know if I mentioned this. Richie knows this. Dolph Ziggler, Nick Nemeth, is actually doing an independent show here in CT early next month. We're definitely going to it, I think. He's going to be there. For shits and giggles, I might have to ask him what his Love Ziggler nickname is. One, if he knows what the fuck I'm talking about. And even two, if he doesn't, I think we might have to record his reaction. I think I might have to ask him his Love Ziggler nickname and then record his reaction. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? So, worth keeping an eye on for sure. Fernando said, what grade do you give the Go Home show last night? I didn't think it was bad. I didn't think it was great either. Probably B-, C+. I thought the show was fine. I thought it did its job of hyping up Mania. It didn't really move the needle for me one way or the other as far as getting me more excited or getting me less excited. Probably B- or C+. I thought Raw was fine, though. I thought it was a solid show. They've had worse shows, but they've had better shows as well. No L, thank you for joining us. Hope you're doing well. They said, I always believed Shawn and Taker was mad at Mania 25 being third to last, so those two decided to steal the show that night. Also, Orton and Triple H should have been a street fight and not a match. I agree on all. Shawn and Taker confirmed, which I'm sure they've said before. They did a watch-along on the WWE YouTube channel a couple of weeks ago. I think it was WWE Playback. They watched back their Mania 25 match. Great video. It's like a 30-minute video. They watch back the match, offer commentary. You see them watching it. It's not just their voices. And they mentioned how they were told like a day or two before they were supposed to be on third. They ended up going like fifth or sixth. They were not even the semi-main event. They went on before the World Heavyweight title match and the WWE title match. The WWE title match being the main event, Triple H and Orton was the best story going into that Mania, and the feud was great, honestly. The match itself sucked. Very underwhelming. Orton should have won. He ended up winning it a month later, just giving the belt to Mania. And it was like a regular match. No street fight stipulation. Very disappointing. Daniel said, come on, Grim, you didn't care about the Natty farting storyline? I remember that back in 2012. There's been a lot of storylines with Natty I just don't give a shit about. That being one of them. That was awful. That was actually when Natalya was one of the better women's wrestlers in that division. And instead of actually utilizing her or pushing her, they gave her a farting gimmick. At least they gave her the Divas Championship in 2010 for a couple of months. But they still, saddled her with like stupid gimmick after stupid gimmick for many, many years, to the point where I just didn't care. Fernando said, what percentage of a chance do you give a Jeff Cobb appearance in Mania this weekend? Next to none. His contract with New Japan comes up, I think, this weekend. He's having his last match in New Japan with Hiroshi Tanahashi, actually, which is cool. I think this Friday or Saturday, I think. That's literally like the same weekend as Mania, so he's not showing up at Mania. It might be a Tamatonga or Tongaloa or fucking Jacob Fatu situation, excuse me, where like he could come in later on, or like it's rumored for Mania weekend, but they don't show up Mania weekend. They could show up like on the Raw or SmackDown after Mania. That would be cool. Mania itself, probably not. Daniel said, please ask Dolph. He also said, that man is probably going to look at you like you have 3 heads. Yeah, he probably would, but it would be worth it. Grunt said, Triple H being the first heel to win in the Mania main event, then stopping Orton from winning at 25 so they can send the crowd home happy is chef's kiss. Yeah, I thought you were talking about him being the first heel to win in the main event at 25. I was going to say he was a babyface, but you're talking WrestleMania 2000. Yeah, Triple H was the first heel to not only win in the main event of Mania, but also retain his championship in the main event as a heel. And then Rock laid him out anyway, which was dumb. Rock ended up winning the championship in a much better match one-on-one at Backlash the following month. Just do Rock and Triple H in Mania. Take Big Show out of the equation. Take Foley out of the equation. Just stupid. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to answer some scheduled questions here. We'll go back to the chat a little bit later on. I will throw this to you guys in the chat for those watching live or after the fact. Let me know what your feedback on this is. Alexis and I were batting around the idea because as of right now, I will be at WrestleMania and she will not be. But if she does not go to Mania and we don't work something out last minute, she was debating just watching it from the hotel room while we're in Vegas and doing a watch along here on the channel. Obviously, I wouldn't be on the stream. I would be in the chat, but I wouldn't be on the stream. But she was thinking of doing a watch, or I actually came up with that idea, I think, and then she thought it would be a good idea. But she would be interested in doing it. Doing a watch along with Alexis, streaming from the room while she watches Mania. So obviously it would be under my account. It would be under the WrestleRant account. I think that would be, I think that would make the most sense. I think that'd be cool. So let us know what your idea on that is, and if you guys would be interested in that. And then I'll go back to the questions here in a moment. I'll go back to the chat here in a second. Although Johnny did say I gave Triple H I gave props to Hiroshi Tanahashi for staying in New Japan. He's a loyal guy. He's very loyal. Dax H, thank you for joining us. He said in the chat, I still think it's completely stupid that they broke the streak in the first place. If I absolutely had to book the streak being broken, I would have had Bray Wyatt do it. I said that earlier. Someone that could have benefited around the time that they ended up breaking it, I would have either done Roman in 2015 or 2014 or Bray Wyatt. I feel like that would have made the most sense. Take Bray Wyatt out of the John Cena storyline. Give Bray Taker at Mania. Have Bray beat Taker at Mania 30. That would have been a far better use of Wyatt on that show. And then what would Cena have done? I don't know. You could have figured something out. But I would have done Cena and Taker at Mania, honestly. I think that would have been cool. Alexis said, Daniel said he wants Alexis to do it. And then Alexis said, yeah, I want to. Excuse me. I can get room service, and then we can all watch the show together. Just an idea. Nothing officially confirmed as of right now, but that is something that we are considering. So if that's something you guys want to see, an Alexis live stream here on the channel, a watch-along of WrestleMania both nights, from the hotel room featuring her, I'll be in the chat. Let us know, and we can possibly do it for one, if not both of the nights. So anyway, here, from the scheduled questions that were sent in, Micah Does It sent this in on YouTube. He said, can you rank Roman Reigns' WrestleMania main event matches from worst to best? So I misread this because I thought it said all of his WrestleMania matches. He said WrestleMania main event matches. So I actually listed, I'll give you one better. I will rank all of Roman's matches at WrestleMania, not just the main event ones, because that's what I did here. I misread your question. From worst to best, Mania 33 against The Undertaker. That match was not good at all. I mean, Roman losing to a broken down Taker would have been bad, but then just don't do the match. Taker was in no shape to perform that night. They tried to go more of the storytelling route. The crowd did not care. It was a long show. I was there for it. Not a great match. I didn't hate it at the time. In retrospect, that match was terrible. So, definitely that one at the very bottom of the list. WrestleMania 32, right after that with Triple H. The match isn't awful, but it's very dull, predictable, boring. Crowd also did not give a shit after a long show. Very, typical ending there with Roman just beating Triple H and that being it. Mania 34 with Brock, easily the weakest of all the Mania matches those two had. The only good thing about that match, I mean, it wasn't an awful match. It just wasn't great at all. It was very dull. But unlike at 32, at least Roman lost that one because we all expected Roman to win again and take the championship from Brock, but he didn't. He lost. Brock winning clean, albeit with like fucking 10 F5s, was stupid, but I was happy that Brock retained. So at least that had that going for it. After that Mania 30, not a main event match. That was when he and the Shield beat Kane and the New Age Outlaws in like a minute or two. Total squash, not even really much of a match. But I'm putting that over WrestleMania 33, 32, and 34 because I would prefer that squash, short and sweet, over those other dull-ass matches. Mania 38 with Brock, a good match, but a disappointing finish with like the low blow and shit. That was like the championship for championship, title for title, unification match. Not overly exciting. For a great Mania, Mania 38 was great. For a great Mania, a very kind of flat ending for me. Mania 35 with Drew, a solid match. Crowd was doing the fucking wave, and I know that because we were there. And I thought they had a well-worked match, but they had much better matches on other shows in the years that followed. Mania 29 was The Shield, Roman, Rollins, and Ambrose versus Orton, Big Show, and Ryback. No. Who else was... Oh, Sheamus. Sheamus, Orton, and Big Show. A good opener, a very good opener, one of the better matches on that show. Kind of raw quality, but still an enjoyable match. Then we go to Mania Night 1, a Mania 40 Night 1 last year, the tag team match. Roman and Rock versus Rollins and Rhodes. Kind of a drastic, like we go from bad and decent matches to great matches. Like there really is no in between, I feel like, with Roman Reigns WrestleMania matches. But Mania 40 Night 1, the tag team match against Cody and Rollins, Rock and Roman. Great match. Mania 37, the triple threat with Daniel Bryan and Edge. Excellent triple threat. Mania 39 against Cody. Hate the fucking finish, but the match itself is great. Mania 31 against Brock with the run-in from Rollins and the cash-in. That's his second best WrestleMania match. And his best WrestleMania match, without a doubt, against Cody Rhodes. WrestleMania Night 2, last year, WrestleMania 40. Facing Cody Rhodes and losing the undisputed WWE Universal Championship to Rhodes on that show. Mike's second question. What do you think were John Cena's best U.S. Open Challenge matches? Also a good question. I did not write down answers for this one. I forgot to prepare for this question for whatever reason. His best U.S. Open Challenge, I mean, I don't know if the Rollins match technically counts because they scheduled that match for SummerSlam. It wasn't really a U.S. Open. And I know people don't like the ending with Jon Stewart getting involved. I get that. I was just happy that Rollins won because it really did look like John Cena would win. So I like that match. They had a great match at SummerSlam that year. As far as like open challenge matches he had, the Sami Zayn match was a lot of fun. Him and Kevin Owens had great matches. Again, they're not really U.S. Open matches because they were all scheduled for pay-per-view. But I thought they all had, those matches were all excellent. The ones with Owens on pay-per-view, again, not U.S. Open. The very first one that he did, a lot of people forget about it, but the very first U.S. Open match that he did against Dean Ambrose for the United States Championship was an excellent match the night after WrestleMania in 2015. He had good matches with Dolph, I remember. Some of the New Day guys, I think Woods and Big E, I think he worked with on TV. And I remember those being like good matches. Del Rio, when he lost the championship, fuck Del Rio, but I thought they had a good match at Hell in a Cell. It was basically a squash of Cena, but I thought it was a good match. Trying to think of what else. Who else did he work with? Kane, that match was fine. The Rusev matches were, those were good. Like the rematches they had. Again, not U.S. Open matches, but they were fine. Pac, he had a great match with on TV. I remember that. Him and Neville had a great TV match. Cesaro, honestly, those might have been the best matches he had. He had matches with Cesaro. Wade Barry had a good match with, I remember that, I think in England, actually. Cody Rhodes, believe it or not, he worked with Stardust. They had a match over the United States Championship. We'll be seeing that this Sunday at WrestleMania. But honestly, probably the best U.S. Open Challenge match that he had either the first or second match with Cesaro. Those matches were awesome. His next question from Mike, I'll go back to the chat in a little bit, like I said. Would you rather have, an interesting question here, would you rather have $5 million right now or $5,000 a day for the rest of your life? That's a good question. I feel like this is easy, though. $5,000 a day. So I did the math. If someone gave you $5,000 a day, first of all, I feel like with $5 million, you wouldn't really know what to spend it on, and you would be worried about, like, first of all, losing it or whatever. I don't know. I just feel like that wouldn't end well. I feel like you would spend it all in one fell swoop on whatever, Whereas with $5,000, it's obviously not $5 million, but you can go spend something, go buy a nice TV today, go buy something nice tomorrow, save the rest of it, whatever. I feel like getting $5 million a day for the rest of your life makes a lot more sense. Not only that, unless you're going to die in a couple of years, you're going to make a lot more money from $5,000 a day than you would from $5 million on one single day. Because I did the math. If you were to get $5,000, I don't know why I'm putting this much thought into it. If you got $5,000 a day, you in a year make like a million, like $1.8 million. You can exceed the $5 million in like 2 or 3 years. So unless you're dying in 2 or 3 years, you stand to make a lot more money from the $5,000 a day than the $5 million right now. So definitely the latter. This next question was along the same lines, but I think this one could go either way. I know which one I would pick. I know which one Alexis would pick, and they're not the same one. Micah asked, would you rather be stuck in the middle of the ocean? This is such a random question. Would you rather be stuck in the middle of the ocean on a small canoe or be stuck in a haunted building? I'm going stuck in the middle of the ocean on a small canoe. Now, the question is, am I in danger of dying in either scenario? The haunted building, like, are the ghosts going to kill me? Am I going to get murdered? I don't do well in situations like that. I won't even go on Haunted Mansion. Not Haunted Mansion. I like Haunted Mansion. I won't even go on Tower of Terror again. Like, the ride itself, the ups and the downs and shit, we did that on the Guardians version of it in California. I love that version. I love that ride. But the one in Disney World, I just won't do. It's the exact same ride, but the anxiety just bothers me of like not knowing when you're going to drop, and it's much scarier, quote unquote. I don't like that. So honestly, I'm going small canoe in the middle of the ocean. Do I have to get my way back? Is someone coming to save me? Am I going to get eaten by a shark or some shit? I could sit in a canoe in the middle of the ocean. It would also be anxiety inducing, but if I'm safe and I'm not going to fucking die, then I'll do that. The haunted building thing, even if I'm not dying, I would be scared shitless. I just can't deal with that. I would be so fucking paranoid. I would not be able to do that. Grun asked, who is also here in the chat, of course. He said via YouTube, sent this in this morning. He said, could some of the hate that John Cena got during his first 2 runs as champion be explained by the fact that the fans at the time had grown accustomed to short title reigns, thanks in large part due to the Attitude Era and its hot potatoing of all the belts, and having just sat through 2 other overly long and largely hated reigns from Triple H and JBL? Do you think the fans would have not have turned on him had his reigns been broken up to allow guys like Jericho and Edge to have a few months with the title? It's a good question. No, I don't think just because JBL and Triple H had long runs. I mean, I wasn't watching WWE. I was not watching wrestling in 2005. So I can't tell you that fans were thinking, or that they weren't thinking, John Cena's champion for the entire year. We just saw this with Triple H and JBL. I don't want another long run. That's why we don't like the run. I don't think so. I feel like during Cena's run, first of all, he wasn't, during that first year as champion, he wasn't really having overly great matches. A lot of the matches were good, but his matches got better in the years that followed. The other thing was he overcame the odds when it wouldn't really make a whole lot of sense. Like Christian was getting hot in 05. They should have given him the championship at that point. I know he was leaving a couple of months later. That might have been the final straw, actually. He's talked about that before, when they kind of passed him over for a main event opportunity. Maybe he would have stayed if they gave him the championship for a little while. Who knows? But like, he was the hot hand. They had John Cena beat him. Jericho, I don't really know if he was the hot hand, but they could have given him the championship. Edge, they did give the belt to for 3 fucking weeks. Obviously, they gave Edge the belt back months later in 06, but they had him cash in only to lose it 3 months later. Like, ridiculous. At that point, just have him cash in at WrestleMania itself or whatever, and then have him hold it for a while. So people did not like that. He was just constantly overcoming the odds, And the character development just wasn't great. His promos at that point were not great. Like, Cena did not feel like a main event guy. He had a great organic rise from the mid card and he was popular, but the John Cena never say die attitude, like, it obviously made him the guy in the company, but it was a lack of character development, a lot like Roman Reigns. Really, Roman Reigns is the perfect example. When Roman was the guy from like 2015 through 2020, his character development sucked. And honestly, like, he was having some great matches like Cena did during his time on top early on, but like, they weren't great enough to justify him being in that spot. People still did not like him. He was beating people that should not have been beaten, people that should have won that championship. And that wasn't like a Roman or Cena problem. It was a WWE problem booking him in that position. But like, those guys got better on the mic and in the ring in the years that followed. Like, Cena was having a lot better matches consistently in like 2011, 2012. I mean, obviously with some of the people he was working with, they had a better roster in 2011, 2012, 2013, 14, 15, so on and so forth, 2016. But Roman Reigns, same thing though. Like, it was very boring. It was very cookie cutter. We'll put the belt back on him, very predictable. Cody Rhodes has been champion for a year. He's in the same spot that John Cena was once in and Roman Reigns was once in 10 years ago. The difference is, though, Cody's having better matches consistently. It's being better booked. Now, Cody did not lose the belt and win it back. Hopefully he does at WrestleMania. I don't really want him winning at WrestleMania. I love Cody, but he should really lose at WrestleMania to John Cena. The irony in that, I know. But at least with Cody, though, he's got a better connection with the crowd. He feels like a main event guy. He's having better matches, better promos, better stories, everything across the board compared to the first few years of the Roman time on top and John Cena's time on top has been better. So with Cena specifically, to your point, I feel like people really turned on him for the reasons that you mentioned if they broke up the run, but they did though. John Cena is a fucking 16-time world champion because of exactly what you said. They took the belt off of him and then gave it right back to him. So like, other people got a shot, but it was always predictable Cena would get it back. And that wouldn't have been as bad if Cena's character was better, less predictable, less boring, less cookie cutter, and they kind of developed the character, turned him heel when they had a chance, and then turned him back babyface, like Roman is now. Roman's not the greatest babyface now because he's not really overly likable at the moment, but he's really over. He's 10 times more over now than he was 5-10 years ago because they turned him heel first, which they should have done a lot sooner. And then the last question for right now, before we get back to these questions, I'll look at the chat in a second. Jordan B. asked on YouTube, which is the headline question for today's video, which Undertaker WrestleMania streak match do you feel does not get a lot of praise? It's a very good question. I got two in mind. One is in the thumbnail for this video, the Edge match at WrestleMania 24. I think that Mania itself doesn't get a lot of praise. Maybe I'm just overstating that because I think a lot of people like that Mania. I think Mania 24 is great for a lot of different reasons. I think JBL and Finlay is a fun opener. The Money in the Bank match is actually my favorite Money in the Bank match ever. The one in 24. Shawn and Ric Flair had a great match. Floyd Mayweather and Big Show is actually very well done. The Triple Threat WWE title match was great. The main event was great between Taker and Edge. Taker winning the World Heavyweight Championship on that show. I think Taker and Edge kind of it's underrated. So I would put that match in there. And then the other match, Johnny mentioned this one earlier, the Ric Flair match from Mania 18. That one gets talked about even less because that wasn't the main event. At least Edge and Taker was the main event of 24. Flair and Taker was not. It was a mid-card match at WrestleMania 18. That's a great match. And that's honestly one of the best and only great matches that Ric Flair had during that 5 or 6 year run when he returned to WWE in the 2000s. Didn't have a lot of great matches on his own, but that was one of them. Him and Taker at Mania 18, and Taker's confidence, or Flair's confidence rather, was at an all-time low. He thought he was a loser. He thought he couldn't go anymore. Taker helped him restore that confidence, which led to Evolution a couple of months later. I think that Taker-Flair match was great. They had other matches in the years the years prior that weren't great. That was a great match. So those to me are the top two underrated Taker matches. Edge at 24, Flair at 18. All right, let's look at the chat here. I'm going to backtrack a little bit. Let's see. Dax H said, I also got tickets for Backlash. I'm so excited. Very cool, Dax H. Hope you enjoy the show that's coming up on May 10th. Johnny's also on board with the Alexis watch-along. Fernando said, Grunt said, I won't be watching, of course, but I may be popping just to see your reactions, Alexis, so he might tune in as well. Fernando said early on, agree Triple H, the Randy Triple H match was too much of an ordinary match for a story where a man gave his opponent a DDT in the middle of the ring and laying a kiss while handcuffed to the ropes. Yeah, a kiss to his wife, no less. Yeah, the feud was great. Orton was a fucking monster. You hear all these memes now. Oh, Orton, '09 Orton was on another level because he was. The match did not match the feud, if that makes sense. It did not match the intensity of the feud. Dax said, could you imagine the Fireflies after that last Sister Abigail for the win? It would have been perfect. Honestly, yeah, there would have been Fireflies, but like, people would have been happier with Bray beating Taker than Brock beating Taker, but I still think it would have gotten a shocked reaction. I still don't think people would have thought Bray was going to beat Taker. People probably thought Taker was going to win. So I don't think you would have gotten the Fireflies immediately. It would have been the same type of reaction where it was shock. Because Taker went undefeated at Mania for 20 years. Why now would he lose? And then he does. You didn't get the Fireflies for that, but you did get the Fireflies for his entrance, I think, during the actual entrance for the match with Cena. The match itself isn't great, but, the entrance is incredible. Definitely Bray's best entrance ever was at WrestleMania 30. Aside from SummerSlam 2019 when he returned as The Fiend. That was also great. Alexis talking about Bray Wyatt. Fernando said, bigger missed opportunity at Mania. Sting versus Taker or Stone Cold versus Hogan? Sting and Taker. Stone Cold and Hogan, we kind of got that with Rock and Hogan. And honestly, Rock and Hogan may have ended up being the better match anyway. I don't know if Stone Cold and Hogan would have worked well in the ring together. I don't know what that chemistry would have looked like. Rock and Hogan was just lightning in a bottle. Such a special match. I actually want to rewatch that this week. I don't think Alexis has ever seen it, so we're going to have to rewatch that this week. Such a great match, though. Sting and Taker, I mean, the match itself would not have been great, but like for the feud, the video package, the entrances, even just in 2015 when both guys were a lot older, they still could have done it at Mania 31, and they chose to put Sting in there with Triple H instead and Taker in there with Bray, which was cool. Both matches I enjoyed for different reasons, but that really should have been where we got Sting and Taker. Ahmed said his match with Cesaro on June 29th, 2015 in the Neville match. Dolph Ziggler match was really good. Yeah, both matches were great. Maria is joining us. Happy WrestleMania weekend, everyone, Maria says. Well, happy WrestleMania week. We'll get to WrestleMania weekend in a couple days, but Maria, what's going on? Thank you for joining us. Always great to see you here in the chat. If you are joining us now, be sure to like the video if you haven't already. I would appreciate it. And also considering signing up to become a channel member. If you become a channel member during the stream itself, everyone will be notified here in the chat. It will say, so-and-so has unlocked the WrestleRant All Access Pass. I realized that last week when Alexis did it, Daniel did it during the GSM for GM stream, and Mr. Marceau did it, I think, during WrestleRant Radio on Thursday. So if you want to become a member during one of the streams, that would be great. $5 a month, awesome perks, top billing, shout-outs at the beginning and end of every live stream that we do. And other people will be notified to let them know that you are a channel member. So anyway, let's see. Alexis talking about Bray with Dax. Every version of Bray got fumbled, sadly. He deserves so much more. Dax said, I agree. But long live the Wyatt Six. Johnny said, if you had a time machine, would you rather had seen John Cena versus Hulk Hogan or Roman versus Stone Cold? Depending on the year, probably Cena and Hogan. I think Roman and Stone Cold, like Tribal Chief Roman versus... Are we talking like if they did the Romans? Because that was a rumor at one point, like in Mania 39 in 2023, that they might have done Roman and Stone Cold. I didn't really want to see that match in Mania 39. I think Cena and Hogan, they could have done it at WrestleMania 25. It would not have been a great match. That would have been a 09. But I would have been more interested in seeing that than Roman and Stone Cold. It's probably a hot take, but I think that would have been the bigger match. Roman and Stone Cold, the only time they could have done it was after Stone Cold came back in 2022. And his first match would not have been with Roman, obviously. They could have done it at 39, and I wasn't really on board with that happening at that point. Yeah, Richie even said Cena versus Stone Cold. Hogan can go kick rocks. There you go. Cena and Stone Cold's the right answer. Dax said, who do we think is the third man that's with Cena and The Rock? I'm really hoping it's Rollins, but I have a feeling it's going to be Drew. I don't think there is a third man. Do I think they could end up delivering a third man? Sure. But in order to have a third man, you first need the first two men. And that's Cena and Rock, who are barely on the fucking show. Cena barely shows up right now. We have not seen Rock since Elimination Chamber. He's barely been mentioned. So you can't really have a third man or a group unless you kind of, have them on television more. Technically, it's Travis Scott. So if there were to be a third man, Rollins at this point would probably make the most sense. Drew would also be fine, but again, I've kind of lost faith in the idea of a faction because we barely see these people on television. That's kind of the problem. I agree, Richie. The third man is Veer. Veer being the third man would indeed be awesome. Fernando said, I remember going on the Tower of Terror being afraid of heights, but I was on my first date with my future mother of my daughter, and I didn't want to seem like a little bitch, Fernando said. Maybe that's what convinced her to say yes when you married her. Very nice. Or maybe not married her, but have kids with her, whatever it might be. That's a nice story. I still would have said no. If Alexis asked me, I probably would have sucked. I mean, I've sucked it up before, not just for that ride, but for other shit. Like, I've sucked it up if I really don't want to do it. But I'm at a point now where I'm like, I'm just not doing it. Like, fuck that. I'm not fucking doing it. I'm not fucking joining. I'm not fucking joining the line for Tower of Terror, just to impress someone. We're at a point now where I'm like, if Alexis doesn't want to do something I don't want to do, and vice versa, we're not fucking doing it. But that is nice though. Johnny had said, would you rather have seen Jon Moxley versus Cactus Jack or Sabu versus Darby Allin? Probably Moxley and Cactus Jack in their primes. Sabu, I don't really give that much of a shit about, I guess. Sabu's good, but probably Jack and Moxley. Dax said, how do you feel about the Punk versus Rollins versus Reign match? Will it be good? I think it'll be good. The build has been kind of underwhelming overall. I'm looking forward to the match, but I do think that, I think the build's been good and the match itself will be great. I also think it's the right choice to headline night one, even if the build has not been overly amazing. Johnny said, would you have rather seen FTR versus, we're just talking dream matches now, FTR versus Hart Foundation or the Dudleys versus Harlem Heat? Definitely FTR versus Hart Foundation. Dudley Boys and Harlem Heat probably would have been good. FTR and Hart Foundation would have been excellent. So definitely the first one. Richie becoming an All Access Pass member. He's taking advantage of what I said earlier. Thank you so much, Richie. Richie, we appreciate that. He is now a member here on the channel. You guys all got notified here in the chat. So if you become like I said before, if you become a channel member during one of the streams, you get notified and he gets his own little green banner and shit. So he now has access to the emojis. That includes the Love Ziggler and Veer emojis in the chat. You see them right there. Can't use them unless you're a channel member. So please consider signing up for that for $5 a month. Richie, thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. The support means a lot. Fernando said, I will be joining Alexis on our Mania watch along. If we do it. If we do end up doing it. But that would be fun. Thank you, Fernando. We appreciate the support. Johnny said 1999, Stone Cold versus Goldberg or Sting versus Taker in 99. Probably Sting in 99, Sting and Taker. Goldberg and Stone Cold probably would have been the bigger match, but Sting and Taker would have been in their primes at that point. At least Sting. Taker was having better matches years later, actually, but I would still go Sting Taker. Dax said I think if Seth joins Heyman, he has to change his character. My gosh, he has gotten stale. I agree, Dax. I agree. I've been hoping for a heel turn from him for a while. And joining with Heyman, whether he does or not. I mean, honestly, I said this on Twitter last night after watching Raw. I'm okay with Rollins winning that triple. I mean, if Rollins wins, who gives a shit? It doesn't really matter. But, I think it would make more sense if Rollins won and then subsequently turned heel either that night or after the fact so we can feud with Jey Uso. Jey Uso will need heel challengers on the Raw roster if he is indeed winning the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania. Who the fuck is he working with? Rollins would be a good choice. The winner of that triple threat really should go on to challenge for a world championship on the Raw roster or on SmackDown. I feel like Rollins and Jey, they really haven't explored that feud, and they also had a bit of a tension teased many months ago around the Royal Rumble time. You can kind of go back into that. You can kind of, they may have been back in December, actually. But regardless, you can revisit that with Rollins now as the heel. Jey Uso could lose the belt a month later. I don't really give a shit, but you give him the Mania moment, and then Rollins maybe takes the belt from him as a heel. I would totally be on board for that. Richie's got all the Love Ziggler emojis in the chat there. Grun said Darby versus Sabu. Darby versus Bam Bam Bigelow. Yeah, Darby getting destroyed by Bam Bam would have been fun. Or Darby versus Mike Awesome. That would have been perfect for one of those one-night stand shows. A lot like we saw from Mike Awesome and I forgot the individual's name. The Japanese pro wrestler, I forgot his name. Masato Tanaka, I believe. That match was awesome. Darby versus Mount Everest. Yeah, exactly, Richie. Dax also said Seth should take the belt from Jay at Backlash. I just said that. I'm not opposed to it, honestly. If Jay holds it for a couple of months, that's totally fine. But he's not like world champion material. I said that months ago, and I'm okay with him winning the world championship to get that moment, but he doesn't need to be world champion for 6 months. Kofi Kingston was, I mean, that was great. And the reign itself I thought was solid. Jay's even less dynamic of a performer than Kofi is. I really do not think Jay has to be champion for more than a couple of months. If he loses it in a month, legitimately, I would not be upset. As long as he beats Gunther, that's really, to me at this point, all that matters. I'll go back to the scheduled questions here, and then we'll go back to the chat a little bit later on. I'll answer some more questions, chat, finish off the questions, and then finish off with the chat. So Chris W. sent in these couple of questions through Facebook. Thank you, Chris, for sending these questions. I always appreciate it. He said, "Hi, Graham. Hope everything's going well, and you had a great weekend. Crap weather mostly in my area due to the rain. Hope you and Alexis have a great time in Vegas." Thank you, Chris. I will tell you this real quick. Alexis is aware of this. First of all, I love the rain. Second of all, we got rain too. Third of all, I'm glad we got rain because I've had this fucking robin shitting on my car for the last week. I'll clean it off, and then it'll shit on my fucking car again. It's so annoying. Robins are cute. We call him Randy the Robin. Fuck him, though, because he keeps shitting on my car, and the rain at least washes it away. It rained today a little bit. I'm sure it washed away the shit on my car. The problem is that it may have shit on it again. I got to go check, so hopefully not. Anyway, Chris also said, "I will be in Nashville all of next week, so I won't be sending in any questions. Hope you enjoy Nashville, Chris. I was there for SummerSlam a few years ago and enjoyed it with Mr. Marceau. Hope you have a good time as well." He said, "Anyway, hopefully WrestleMania is at least watchable despite the lackluster build. Can you rank all of the versions of Rollins from worst to best? From Shield Rollins to Visionary Seth? Also, is it weird for me to admit that while I respect the hell out of the man, I just don't buy him as a tough guy, especially with that nasally voice?" No, it's not weird to say that you don't see Seth as a tough guy because of kind of how he's portrayed. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, it's one thing to say, "Oh yeah, I don't buy him as a tough guy because he wears feminine clothing and stuff like that. He wears all these fucking stupid ass outfits. Not even necessarily feminine, but some of the outfits are just stupid. But not even that, like the nasally voice and stuff. He's not as much of a tough guy as Roman is, and other people in the roster is. So I can understand that. But as far as all the versions of Seth, that's a good question. Ranked from worst to best, honestly, I would put Visionary Rollins at the bottom. It's been going on for too long, and it's over, and people love the song, but it's just the least creative to me. Like, it just feels so fucking lazy. I think Rollins' overall character arc mirrors Adam Page's from AEW. He's had the best character arc almost of anyone in WWE. It's been consistent. The turns have made sense. He's also an amazing in-ring performer. But the visionary stuff, not my cup of tea. Early on, maybe, when he first started going crazy and he was working with Edge and he was working with Cesaro, that shit I liked. But everything else since then, not a big fan. So probably that one at the bottom. I honestly, in my opinion, I think the best version of Rollins was the rebuild, redesign, reclaim Rollins from 2016 through like 2017, 2018, 2019. Before the crowd turned on him, Rollins was fucking white hot. Like, I don't know exactly what versions of Rollins we're talking here. Like, I would include Kingslayer Rollins from 2017 in this as well. When Rollins came back in 2016 from his injury, I thought he was awesome. And I already liked Rollins. I became a bigger fan of his at that point. 2017, 2018 specifically, Rollins was white hot. He had never been hotter his entire career. So that's my favorite version of Rollins. I think that's the best. So I told you the worst. That's the best. Shield Rollins would probably be second. I think Shield Rollins was awesome and underrated too. Like, he was doing shit in the Shield, that was just so underrated. And after his injuries, he kind of had to slow down a little bit in the ring. So he's not that same guy that he was 10, 12 years ago. But Shield Rollins was awesome. It's probably second. Authority Rollins, I would probably put at 3. I liked Authority Rollins. Some of the promos weren't great, but he really had to learn to improve his promos during that period. He was also booked not great as world champion, but I enjoyed the reign overall. But that gave him his main event push. He won the world title in the main event of Mania because of the Authority. So I'd put Authority Rollins at 3. And then 4, although it was very short-lived, I thought it had potential. The Monday Night Messiah Rollins. I know Alexis loved that character too. We don't have enough Colts in wrestling. I know she said last night while we were watching Raw that, she wants Karrion to do kind of like a Colt character. That ship sailed. We already saw the group in, Final Testament. They never really maximized that full potential there, so he's not going to lead a Colt, but Karrion Kross is great. I like him. So I think of the 5 versions of Rollins that I mentioned, I may have been missing one, but I would go redesign, rebuild, reclaim Rollins from 2016 through like early 2019, mostly through 2018 though. 2, Shield Rollins. 3, Authority Rollins. 4, Monday Night Messiah Rollins. I like that Rollins. A lot of people called it boring, but I liked it. And 5, Visionary Rollins. That to me is at the bottom. I might be missing 1 or 2, but I think those are all the main ones. Chris's second question. I've stated in the past that I am not entirely sold on Shawn Michaels' style of booking. It seems these days immediately as a new signee comes into the company, they are pushed to the top immediately or are given title shots off the bat. I find this ass backwards as the competitor should get an emotional connection with the crowd first, and then you build to the eventual title change. But I'm just a mark, and Shawn Michaels is Triple H's buddy, so his terrible skills matter more. I'm happy for Ricky Starks, but I feel he got his North American Championship way too soon without any real build. Julia should have gotten more than 1 match before she got her first title opportunity, and the backstage segments are embarrassing and cringe to watch, with characters not acting at all like normal people and talking with overly scripted dialogue that doesn't work. My question is Shawn Michaels a good booker, a bad booker, or one where his flaws are more noticeable than his strengths? It's a good question. I think Shawn Michaels is a good booker. If he's responsible entirely for the booking of NXT, and it's not, I think there's a few other people that are pretty instrumental making decisions there. But I think a lot of the, praise, blame, whatever falls on Shawn. NXT under Shawn has largely been very good. NXT 2.0, I think, was also him, but a lot of that was like Vince, Bruce Pritchard influence to my knowledge. That shit was garbage. I think the best booker of NXT was Triple H years ago. But honestly, even that, though, Triple H had only 1 hour of NXT to work with for like a decade. Shawn has 2 hours. I still think the show should be 1 hour, but they have such a big roster at this point, you can't go backwards, so that's just not going to happen. I think Shawn's a good booker. He's a lot like Triple H in that he's a basic booker, and I get that because I'm not a real-life booker, but I'll book shit in GM mode that mirrors their kind of stuff, not on purpose or like it's a subconscious thing. We're like, oh, you have these 2 people face this week, we'll do the opposite next week. That can get boring though. You also need someone in there that can throw in the spice, the excitement, the storylines. NXT is capable of that. We don't see it often enough. He books a lot of his own shit, like the barbershop window angle, losing his smile angle, the list goes on and on. He books a lot of his own storylines from his own career in NXT. That is very obvious, and sometimes it's kind of lazy. But overall, NXT is a good show. It's decent. It's not overly must-see. But honestly, even back in the day when Triple H was running it, I enjoyed NXT TV, but it was the takeovers that were really what was worth watching for. And people coming in, immediately getting title shots and winning them, I agree. You kind of lose the character arc there in the build, the suspense. But I think it's because the people that they're bringing in are just so much better than the people they have in those roles. For example, Ricky Saints is a much better fit for that North American Championship than and I like Sean Spears, but Sean Spears is just not all that interesting. I like Tony D'Angelo, but Tony D'Angelo is here. Ricky Saints is here. He's a lot better, a lot more interesting, better fit for that spot. So they'll give him the belt right off the bat. I can see why they do it. Obafemi's not that guy, though. Obafemi, they gave the championship very quickly. The North American title, then the NXT championship. So he very much rushes stuff, but honestly, part of that might be due to the fact that he's worried that he can't really wait too long to give people championships because he's worried they might get called up before he can. Now, even though Triple H is running things on the main roster, there still are abrupt call-ups. Like, they've talked about this. That process has changed, but it's not that much better than it was, where people will get called up at random without losing their belt first in NXT, all this other shit. He's like Julia having a month or 2-month long title run might have been because, he thinks that Julia might be called up after Mania, so he's got to get this shit out of the way now. They have so many people they can work with that it's okay if they don't wait 7 months to build the shit. I think it goes both ways. I think he's a good booker, not perfect. He's good enough. And I think it's good for the developmental roster. His booking of the women is good. I feel like if you put him on the main roster, he's not going to book the women that much better or that much more differently than Triple H has. Because Triple H, for a long time, was the savior of women's wrestling in NXT. But now he's booking the main roster. He's got a million other things to worry about. Now his booking of the women isn't nearly as strong. I think Sean would be in that same spot if he was in Triple H's spot right now, too. His third question, Jacob Fatu is so awesome. So awesome, he says. That's all I got to say. No, I'm just joking. He really is great, though, and to cap off how much of a lethal badass he is, I think he should go into WrestleMania this year and decimate LA Knight for the title. Sure, Knight can put up a fight, but I think Fatu goes in there and annihilates him within a 6 to 8 minute match. They can tell a small story in between, but ultimately Fatu stands tall in the match. Do you think Fatu should win the match? Do I think he should? Yes. What I think they're going to do is have... Fatu's my pick to win, but I could very well see them having LA Knight retain with a run-in and inadvertent interference from Solo Sikoa, and that cost Jacob Fatu the match, and LA Knight wins. That doesn't really do LA Knight any favors. That's a SmackDown finish. I would do a clean finish. Fuck Solo Sikoa. Like, I like... That's not true. I like Solo Sikoa. But, like, who gives a shit? If you were going to do that, then just do Solo and Jacob at Mania. Like, maybe then LA Knight wouldn't have gotten a match. But that match makes more sense than LA Knight and Jacob anyway. So I would let them go in there and have a great match. LA Knight is very good. Jacob is awesome. Let them go in there and have a great match. Probably won't be 15 minutes, but, you know, having Jacob decimate him and then just take the title, I also would not have an issue with that. It wouldn't be a great use of Knight, though. Knight really should put up a fight. They shouldn't be squashed. He's not at that level where he can just be squashed and be fine. He's over enough, but, like, I wouldn't squash LA Knight. I don't think people would be happy with that. I would put the belt on Jacob Fatu, though. If he doesn't win, he's not, like, dead in the water, but I don't really think he would do him any favors. If he loses his first match, it being at WrestleMania is fine, but with it being via, like, interference from Solo Sikoa, inadvertent or not, that's kind of lazy to me. His last Facebook question here, or YouTube question, he sent these all in on YouTube. He also sent in Facebook questions, which I'll get to after the chat in a moment. His last YouTube question was, Joe Hendry, the man that everyone believes in, won the championship at Genesis against Nick Nemeth. And yes, it was cool to see him at the Royal Rumble, and I loved the pop he got, and the clapping and the singing was nice. But ever since then, I feel TNA has struggled badly with giving Hendry enough meat in his title reign to chow down on. Right now, he's in a confusing storyline where Kazarian is getting a title shot, and now Ethan Page wants a title shot. More on that in a little bit. And he's made to look like a doofus due to this injury storyline. The Jake Something and Matt Cardona matches were good, but it just feels like TNA runs back to the well with Cardona too many times to a point where he's not really considered a threat. Do you feel Hendry's title reign feels a little too underwhelming these days? And what do you think needs to happen to keep Hendry afloat before the booking sinks him? I don't disagree with anything you said. I think Hendry's had a good run so far, but it kind of has felt like an afterthought. He's had a couple good TV title matches with, you mentioned Jake Something, Matt Cardona. I think he had one or two other ones. I forgot who else he worked with, but like he's feuding with Elias, kind of. They're teasing that for down the road, which is a fine match, but like, is that really worthy of the World Championship? He's not really working with top talent. Now he's working with Kazarian, who did win the Call Your Shot Battle Royals, or the Call Your Shot Gauntlet Battle Royal thing. So it makes sense why Kazarian's getting a title shot. But why is he cashing in ahead of time? Why is he announcing it ahead of time? Because Joe Hendry was hurt, quote unquote. I mean, that's just kind of dumb to me. Ethan Page being in there is cool, but why is it a triple threat? It feels like it's a triple threat because Hendry is going to pin Kazarian, and then that's kind of a waste of the trophy. Why even give it to Kazarian in the first place? And then Ethan Page will be protected. At that point, just do Hendry and Page, or Hendry and Kazarian, which they've done before, and it's like that's not really that big of a main event match either. He needs to be working with top talent, like the Hardys, TNA at this point doesn't have a whole lot of top talent. They lost Josh Alexander. They did Josh and Joe late last year because they knew Josh was on his way out. They got to have him working in like a big main event storyline. I think he's had a good, solid run, but he needs a like really exciting main event storyline. Ethan Page is good. I like it. Ethan Page is great. The storyline is good. But we know Ethan Page probably is not winning the NXT champ or the fucking TNA World Championship. That would be interesting. It's probably not happening. So, that being said, you got to have him work with top talent and prioritize his storylines, because right now he kind of feels like he's 1B instead of 1A. It feels like the Nick Nemeth, Ryan Nemeth, Hardy Boys storyline is kind of like the biggest thing in TNA at this point. That's the biggest storyline at the moment. And then Joe Hendry is kind of an afterthought. So hopefully they can fix that. We'll go back to the chat here before I finish off the rest of the questions. Let's see. Yes, I did mention the Robin Alexis. Bronson Reed versus Bam Bam Bigelow, Johnny asked. Or Bronson Reed versus Big Van Vader. Ooh, that's a good question. I'm going to go Vader and Bronson Reed. That match would have been awesome, with obviously Vader being in his prime. Richie said Jay should vacate the title on Raw after Mania. He did, and he said, and say he did it yeet for his family yeet, for us yeet, but he just wants to yeet and he can't win the title. He can't win the title. Yeah, that would be fucking awful. I hope not, but you never know. Dax said, I'm really hoping we give Orton more. He needs some big wins in this run. I mean, he was going to work with Kevin Owens and probably beat him, and then Owens got hurt. So I think Orton still wrestles anyway, and he beats whoever he faces, I would hope. I think Orton and Cena is what we get at Backlash. Dax, you'll be at Backlash, so Orton's not going to win. I don't think he should. But I think Orton and Backlash, or Orton and Cena at Backlash, and Orton's hometown of St. Louis would be fucking awesome. So hopefully that happens. Grunt said, I need Jay to lose just to see Rikishi throw a fit. We got that at Mania 31. Remember that whole Inouye family riot? The fucking Roman Reigns family rioted? Not rioted, but you know what I meant. Like, they were very upset because they thought Roman was winning at WrestleMania 31, and then he didn't. And then I said, hey, guess what? Fuck you. Who gives a shit? It was the better outcome. Get over it. Cry me a river. That was the funniest shit. They were all upset because Roman lost at Mania 31. So, no, Jay should not lose at Mania. That would be terrible. That would be so bad. Richie said, Graham versus Randy the Robin for a night too. Yeah, I'll beat his ass. Fuck you, Randy the Robin, shitting in my car. I got to go check after this is over. Shitting in my fucking car. Dax said, wait, you went to SummerSlam in 2022? I did too. My signs made it on TV. That's very cool. Yeah, I was there. That was my first time in Nashville. Enjoyed it. And it was a fun show. That was the first show. That was like obviously right after Vince retired. A lot of buzz that weekend. A lot of hype. I actually talked to Paul Heyman that weekend. Met him in person. And interviewed him for like fucking 25 minutes. He was the man. Great, great time. Great weekend with Mr. Marceau. We met Logan Paul too. He was actually nice when we met him. I'm not saying he's an amazing person, but he was cool when we met him. We met him in his dressing room. And it's quite the weekend. Very interesting weekend indeed. Mike Awesome is very underrated. A very underrated big man in wrestling history, Maria says. I would say so as well. Dax says, I think the visionary stuff in early 2022 was pretty good too when he worked with Roman again. Yeah, that was a great feud. Way too short, though. They just worked for the Rumble. Roman won by DQ because Rollins got himself DQ'd, or Roman got himself DQ'd, sorry. And then they never went back to it until just now. And even now, it's not a one-on-one storyline. It's fucking dumb. Richie said, redesign, rebuild, reclaim era was fuego. Some of that merch at that time made for some sick gym gear too. Yeah, I still have my redesign, reclaim, redesign, rebuild, reclaim shirt. The first shirt that he came back with at Extreme Rules 2016, I love that shirt. Alexis wants more cult leader characters in WWE. Johnny said, Triple H, Pac, Gun, Dog versus the Death Riders, or Evolution versus BCC. Brother. Johnny, is that a serious question? Is that a serious question? The fucking anything with the Death Riders is an automatic no. So Evolution versus Blackpool Combat Club, if that's what you're talking about, easily. Evolution versus Blackpool Combat Club. Richie said, Shawn Michaels is a good booker, but the biggest highlight of NXT will always be Ava. Ava's acting is fucking awful, and you know it, Richie. She is the credits of every movie that she appears in because she's just that bad. If you don't get that reference, go back and check out all the other episodes of this show. That's an inside joke. I know, Dax, Lola Vice is the highlight of NXT for sure. For you, I get that. I understand. Still not a Lola Vice fan myself, but, you know, she's fine. The constant ass shaking is, I know people like that. I'm not going to complain. I understand it. Trust me, I get it. Just don't think that makes for the best character work. Let's put it that way. Richie said, Obafemi is him. That man has aura out of the wazoo. Of all the people that WWE has brought in from the outside to NXT, Oba is the one recent homegrown guy other than Braun that has it. I agree. Oba is awesome. Johnny said China versus Rhea Ripley or Awesome Kong versus Io Sky. That's a great question. China was Rhea, Awesome Kong, and Io Sky were all better workers than China, so easily Kong and Sky. Kong and Sky probably would have been fucking great if Awesome Kong was in her prime. That would have been sick. So definitely the latter. Ahmed said Oba North American Championship reign was very good, so I understand why Sean gave him the NXT Championship. No, Oba deserved the NXT Championship, but giving him the championship as quickly as he did, I think is what Christopher was talking about. Like, it was very quick. Johnny said 1998 no DQ match. Stone Cold versus Sandman or the Taker or the Undertaker versus Raven. Sandman sucked in the ring, dude. I mean, Sandman had a great gimmick and an amazing entrance, but his matches were not great. So definitely Taker and Raven if they're in their prime. Fernando said, to be fair, Joe Hendry, TNA is lacking. To be fair to Joe Hendry, TNA is lacking single stars. I agree with that. He already beat Nemeth, so like who else is there left for him to work with? I agree. Rikishi is the ultimate UFO dad, I swear. All of his answers to what would be best for business is give my sons the belts. I know. Rikishi is, hey, listen, he's loyal to his family, if nothing else. Richie said, but Graham, Mox brings the ratings. I know, that's what, is that, Richie, are you Tony Khan's burner account? Sounds a lot like something Tony Khan has said and would say. Johnny said a dream GM match. Ava versus Stephanie McMahon. Oh, God. Oh, God, no. You could not pay me to sit through that. Maybe you can. Maybe it's so bad that it's good. Maybe. Daniel said, no Lola slander will be tolerated. Watch your mouth. Hey, listen, I'm going to slander Lola all day. I'm sorry. I stick to my guns on that shit. Johnny said a dream bra and panties match would have been Tori Wilson versus Lola Vice. Yes, indeed, Dax. This is indeed taking a turn. I agree. I mean, honestly, any dream bra and panties match, you can put any diva, any female wrestler from any era. Does it have to be Lola Vice and Tori Wilson? It could really be anyone, and your answer probably would not be wrong. It's all subjective. Grunt said BCC versus the Four Horsemen, Flair, Anderson, Benoit, and Pillman/Malenko. That would have been good. That would have been a good match, Grunt. I agree. Richie said Stephanie would carry Ava like she did Brie Bella. That was actually a much better match than it had any right to be. You're talking SummerSlam 2014. The feud actually ended up being pretty good, although the acting from Brie sucked. Stephanie and Brie was shockingly a good match. I hated the Nikki Bella interference finish because the Bella twins split and the subsequent feud was fucking terrible. But the match at SummerSlam with Ava and Ava, God forbid, Stephanie and Brie was actually pretty good. All due credit to both women. Stephanie had a lot better matches than people gave her credit for. Overall, she wasn't like the best women's wrestler they had, but between that, the mixed tag match at Mania 34, Stephanie was involved in some decent matches. All right, so let's finish out with the questions here on document before we wind down with the chat. Back to Christopher L. This time his questions come from Facebook. He said, I saw a video last week about how this TNA NXT partnership feels so one-sided, and only NXT is really gaining anything out of this whole thing. Fans of the TNA shows are chanting NXT loudly, and the NXT guys beat TNA guys and gals on their shows. I honestly can't think of one TNA star defeating an NXT star, in all honesty. I agree that it makes TNA look bad regardless of whatever exposure they're getting, as TNA is not making any new fans and their business is only up solely because WWE is involved, not because TNA has been drawing any stars. Has the TNA NXT partnership really helped them, or is it just for show? I completely disagree. I think it's been mutually beneficial. I think it's actually helped TNA more, in my opinion. TNA's attendance is the best that it's been in many years. They've gotten new TV deals, with this probably being a prime factor. The shows have been better as of late. There have been a lot of instances of TNA beating NXT people on their shows. If you watch Impact and watch the NXT PLEs or the TNA PLEs, TNA pay-per-views, whatever, I mean, Masha Slamovich beat Cora Jade a couple of weeks ago. Gigi Dolan and Tatum Paxley, I think, just lost to Ash and Heather by Elegance. They had, Joe Hendry's probably beating Ethan Page at the pay-per-view, whether he pins him or not. Wesley and his boys lost to Ace Austin in the Rascals a couple of weeks ago in a six-man tag team match. JC Jane lost to Masha a couple of weeks ago. I mean, there's countless instances I watched the product, so I can tell you how many times it's happened. The fucking Hardys beat Fraxime at that MSG show. I thought Fraxime would get their win back at some point. So far, they haven't. They're not doing that Mania weekend, unfortunately. But yeah, there have been countless instances of TNA people beating NXT and the other way around. So I would not use that as a factor. And then also, like I said, the ratings are better, I think, for TNA for whatever that's worth. Their attendance is up. There's a lot more buzz and excitement around the TNA product. They're running bigger buildings this year, probably with the WWE partnership being a prime factor. Their fucking world champion was in the Rumble. Yeah, it was brief, but it was one of the better parts of that, match, one of the better reactions, one of the better surprises. Great exposure for TNA there. He had the championship. Joe Hendry's super over, obviously. They got TNA out of the, or they got Jordan Grace out of the TNA working relationship. So, yeah, I mean, I think TNA's really benefited a lot. I watch the show, so I'm just going off of what I see personally. I don't know how much you watch of it. But, yeah, TNA has definitely benefited. NXT's benefited because their shows are better. They have a lot more people to work with instead of just their own roster. But I think it also gives NXT people more exposure. Not just exposure, but, more opportunities to get better by working in TNA. And then TNA people get more exposure by working on NXT. People like Moose. He doesn't need to get better. Moose is already very good. But he gets more exposure by being in TNA. The Hardys get to kind of tip their toe back into being in WWE without actually being under contract there for right now. Jordan Grace got her exposure from being on NXT through the TNA partnership. So it's very mutually beneficial, in my opinion. I've been a big fan of it so far. Not saying it's perfect, but overall it's been very good. Your second question, thoughts on the situation with the Brooke Hogan and her family drama. It's a fucking mess. I haven't really followed all the videos. I haven't watched any of the videos. I've just heard about it. It's more Hogan drama. There's been Hogan family drama for decades, this being no exception. No one really comes off great, aside from maybe Brooke. Brooke has come off maybe the best of everyone involved in this whole situation. Not really Hulk, definitely not her mom. Brooke's probably come off the best. I haven't really followed it. I don't really give a shit. But it's been one giant fucking mess. Let's put it that way. Your third question, why is Tony Khan so freaking awkward? I know you asked this a couple of weeks ago, months ago, whatever. Tony Khan's just an awkward dude. I mean, I think that might be a product of being an only child, maybe. I don't know. Like, being the son of a billionaire. His social skills are not great. Very nice guy. Not going to doubt that. He is a very awkward individual, though. So, less exposure on AEW television, the better. And thankfully, he has not been on that show a whole lot in the last couple of months. Thank God. Your last question here is Hangman versus Swerve, the greatest storyline AEW has ever created. I remember watching their first segment together after All Out 2023, and I was absolutely mesmerized by how great the segment was. Ever since then, their feud has been amazing. Do you think it's the greatest feud AEW has ever done? My answer for the longest time was Punk and MJF, but I think after just taking into consideration everything these two have done, been involved in, the quality of the matches, the booking, the character development, I think it's this. I think it's Swerve and Hangman. I think that is their best feud. I think it's this. Punk MJF, I still give a slight 2 because I thought that feud was perfect. It was only 6 months. This has been going on and off for like 2 years, but Punk and MJF was only 6 months. But that feud is great. The matches were great. I still give that the number 2 spot, and the number 3 is Mariah May and Toni Storm. Also, that went on for longer, but the matches were great. The booking was great. Tony became a star. Tony's was already a star, but Mariah May really became a star out of that storyline. Mariah May really broke out in that storyline. And then the fourth one would probably be Adam Page and Kenny Omega. The overall story they told there from late 2019 through late 2021 was also great. At Millennial _Noob, rather, from Twitter, his only question here was, are you interested in Asuka returning to the ring? And are you invested in the Kabuki Warriors winning the WWE Women's Tag Titles? I just want to see her come back in terms of holding the Women's Tag Titles, and no one wants to see Asuka holding the Women's Tag Titles in 2025. I think he's saying, because he said, I want to see her come back in terms of the Tag Titles, I think he meant to say, I just want to see her come back. But for the Tag Titles, I don't want to see her holding those. Yeah, when Asuka comes back, I hope they use her on her own. I mean, she can be in Damage Control, but you're right. They already gave her and Kabuki, the Kabuki Warriors, her and Kairi Sane, their second run as women's tag champions. They were already tag champions a few times, at least once, in 2019, 2020. Maybe twice. I think they were champions twice. And then they got the belts back in early 2024. They were champions for a few months. There's no reason to revisit that. I think Asuka can really be useful, honestly, in the women's mid-card title scene on Raw. I think when she comes back, which could be as soon as the post-WrestleMania Raw, I think there's a decent chance of that happening. I think she's actually at WrestleMania weekend. So honestly, I think Asuka could be a great post-WrestleMania Raw surprise. I think she should go after the Women's Intercontinental Championship and maybe even win it. I think Asuka having a run similar to her NXT Women's Championship run where she's dominant, working with new women, working with new faces, holding a championship she's never won before, I feel like would be the perfect use for her, the perfect use of her when she comes back. At Iwagu91, last 3 questions here of the show from him, from the scheduled questions anyway, before we finish off with the chat. He says, of the ideas for Loki in the WWE, not Loki from Marvel, Alexis, I know what you're thinking. He's talking Caval. It was the man who won the 2nd season of NXT. Anyway, you wouldn't know who he is. I know you're watching, so I'm just clarifying that, because his name is Loki. Anyway, of all the ideas that they had from in WWE that never came to fruition, do you think that him being an evil Rey Mysterio would have been better than him being Undertaker's secret son? I know you're a big Loki fan at Iwagu, and we've talked about this before with Loki and whatnot. Which storyline would have been better? Neither of those sound great. The evil Rey Mysterio probably would have been better. They kind of did that with evil Sin Cara. They put Hunico under the mask. They took the mask off and made him Hunico, but they kind of did the whole evil masked individual thing where it was the same guy, but he was evil in 2011 with Sin Cara. With Rey and Loki would have had great matches. I think that would have been the peak for him, though. I don't really know what else he would have done. Like the secret son thing of Undertaker, honestly, any illegitimate son-daughter storyline, most of those are fucking garbage. I don't even really know how that would have made sense. So that would have been terrible. The evil Rey Mysterio thing would have made for fun matches. I don't know how much they would have used Loki after that. Loki was a former Ring of Honor World Champion, but if you notice, he never really had success at the top level of any other promotion that he worked for. TNA, he was never a World Champion. I don't think he was X Division Champion, never a World Champion. He just didn't really have the attitude that was cut out for a big company like WWE. He was only there for like less than a year. He was barely in WWE before they let him go. So it just wouldn't have worked long term. Another low-key related question, though, he asked, whereas Daniel Bryan successfully became a main event guy in the WWE and Cesaro should have been one had Vince relented, Low-key was never going to be a main event guy had he stuck around in the WWE, as his ceiling was in the mid-card and tag team division. Do you feel the same? Yeah, Low-key, again, I feel like his attitude and his, at least his attitude as far as we know. I've never met the guy, but like I'm just going off of what we've seen. Austin Aries was the same way. Austin Aries kind of burned all bridges with every company he's ever worked for, it seems like. WWE, TNA, Ring of Honor, maybe even MLW. He was at the commentary team for their most recent show, but, he's been a Ring of Honor World Champion, TNA World Champion, but he never really reached the heights that he should have, probably for attitude issues or whatever. For Low-key, though, he was even less dynamic than Aries. I mean, he just was not a good talker. He did a lot of promos on NXT Season 2, and he was just never going to get beyond a certain level. He won that season because they relied on legitimate fan votes, and then they beat him up when he won the season anyway, which was fucking weird. He got laid out and then never even ended up amounting to anything. It was bizarre. He was booked like a jobber. He won one TV match, lost the rematch at Survivor Series 2010 to Dolph Ziggler, and that was it. And he got fired like a month later. Then he had a match with Chavo Guerrero soon after. I feel like he had another match after that, but he got fired soon after, and that was it. Low-key was never going to be anything more than a mid-card tag team division guy. But even then, he could have been that in WWE, had his own ego or whatever not gotten in the way. And then last question here, also from Matt Iwagu. Despite Finn Balor feeling antagonistic, if not jealous, antagonistic? I think that's the word. That's how you pronounce it. Antagonistic, if not jealous, towards Dominic Mysterio and acting very self-centered. I feel that if or when they feud, he'll turn face, as Dominic is still too over as a heel to turn face himself. Do you feel the same as well? So he's asking, should Finn Balor be the one to go babyface instead of Dominic? Yeah, because Dominic still has the Liv Morgan connection. So if you turn Dom face, which at some point he will be a babyface, like he's going to be a guy that people love to hate, and they're going to turn him face at some point. Kind of like The Miz for a while, the few times they did turn him face. He's obviously a better heel, though, as Dominic. If they turn him face, they'd either have to turn Liv Morgan along with him or have Dom be dumped by Liv and Finn. And that just doesn't make sense. Like, Liv's not going to go with Finn now. That makes even less sense. So They're not breaking up Dom and Liv anytime soon. I don't think there's something there with them. WWE really likes them together. They were just touring India together to do WWE media over there. I think Finn would be the one to go face, and that also goes along with my theory that in some of these backstage segments, if you've noticed, in the background, you'll see a slight Easter egg, a small Easter egg for shots of the Demon. You could see pictures of the Demon in the background, and I don't think that was by accident. I think they're building at some point to a Dom Balor feud, and maybe Dom wins the first match, but at some point Finn goes back babyface and becomes the Demon. Now, he has been the Demon as a heel. He was the Demon as a heel at WrestleMania 39, and he still fucking lost. That was the last time he was the Demon. The Demon is dead, and has been dead for a long time. But if they want to dust off the Demon, that would make sense. So I think Finn's honestly a better heel than a babyface, but he's been a heel now for about 3 years since he joined the Judgment Day. If they want to have him get exiled, Judgment Day is a dead group anyway. I would just split up the whole fucking faction. But if anyone's going to turn face out of the two, it would be Finn. It might give him a short-lived career resurgence as a babyface because he's been a heel now for a while. Maybe people will start to care about him. He'll never really win when it matters most ever again. He's basically like the new fucking Dolph Ziggler. Not quite that bad quite yet as far as his booking, but he's rapidly approaching that point. Maybe he'll get a short-lived career resurgence out of it, and he can bring back the Demon and maybe bring back the old theme song, and people will like him for a little while and go nuts every time he comes out. So that's what I see happening. Those were all the questions. Let's get to the chat here before we call it a day. Let's see. Backtracking. Brie mode. Richie, don't remind me. That shit was awful. You can look, but you can't touch. Yeah, Richie. Richie quoting Natalya from WrestleMania 26 when we did her watch along. When Natalya goes, "Yeah, you like that?" She said that to Vince during the Brett Vince match in Mania 26, which was awful. Natalya going, "Yeah, you like that?" Will live rent free in my head. Johnny said, 1998, who would be 5 WCW versus 5 WWE guys that you would pick in a War Games match? Oh, off the top of my head, I have no idea, but I mean, that takes a lot more thought. Let's put this together real quickly. 98 for both companies. For WWE, it would be Triple H, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock. Is this before Shawn Michaels got hurt? Let's say it is. Or let's say it's not. Let's say Shawn's out of the picture. Brett's not there. So it would be Triple H, Taker, Rock, Stone Cold, Foley. Probably the top 5 there. And then from WCW, Hogan's there at that point. Flair is back at that point, but he's not really in his prime. Hogan, Goldberg, Sting. Who was like around in 98 in WCW? I'm trying to think. I have no idea. Flair, maybe. DDP. DDP, probably. And Booker. Booker kind of broke out a little bit later on. I don't know. Goldberg, maybe Hall or Nash. Probably Hall. WWE would win easily, though, for sure. I'd have to think about the WCW one. Grunt said, shame we never got a Bullet Club. Not Bullet Club. Blackpool Combat Club. I always get the BCC mixed up with Bullet Club. Versus the Pinnacle feud. Yeah, that would have been fine. Dex said, I think it's weird. I know this is weird, but I absolutely despise the Bellas. Everything they do makes me cringe. It's not that weird. The Bellas are kind of cringy. I've become a bigger fan of them over the years, but I'm still not a Bella Twins fan. A lot of shit they were involved in was cringy, and kind of how they act sometimes is cringy, even now. Like Nikki complaining for so long about like how WWE used the women and shit, which I agreed with, and then she was also pissed they kind of slighted her for some reason, even though they put him in the fucking Hall of Fame a few years ago. She was shitting on the company and how they weren't included in certain video packages and shit, like who gives a shit, and then she accepted a deal to come back. I mean, you could say the same thing about Punk and so many others, but it's like, really, at least Punk had like a 10-year arc where he kind of, I don't know. The Bellas were kind of a big victim of that, where they were shitting on WWE literally less than a year later. You know, she's back in the company, is Nikki Bella, but whatever. Johnny said, just joking, but the Cat and Terry versus Lola Vice and Jada Parker would have been a classic. Define classic. A dream promo battle of yours, Johnny said. I've always loved the idea of Punk getting in there with Stone Cold. If they ever had a feud in like 2013, that would have been amazing. Grunt says, apparently Cope has been on a bit of a blocking spree on X, which is very unfortunate to hear. Still think he could be on the spectrum. Are you talking about Cope is on the spectrum or someone else? I don't know who you're talking about. But anyway, Cope, I mean, he's blocked a lot of people on Twitter. I don't know if he's blocked me. I'd have to check. But he did block a lot of like journalists for a while. When he was in WWE, he blocked a lot of people. People like that didn't even mention him. Some people that didn't even really have an issue with Cope, and he blocked him anyway, which was weird. I'm blocked by Shawn Michaels. I know Shawn doesn't run his own account, so whoever fucking runs his account blocked me for some reason. Maybe it's an automatic thing where I've heard that before, where they don't block you themselves. Sometimes they block any word that people use, and that blocks that account that uses it. I've heard a lot of theories, but I got to check if, let's see. You know what, actually, I'm going to check right now. I'm going to check right now while we're on the air. Let's check if I'm blocked by Cope. I'm curious. What's his name? Cope. No, I'm still good. I don't want to jinx it, but I'm still following him, so he doesn't follow me, obviously, but I am not blocked by Mr. Adam Copeland. I don't even know why he would be blocking people, because he's barely on X. He hasn't tweeted since March 6th, and he's only retweeted 2 things in the last month. So I'm not even really sure why he would be blocking people anyway. Anyway, let's pull up the chat here, like I said. Where's the chat? Let's see. Fernando said, I agree. The TNA and WWE relationship has been evenly beneficial. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Basquilino, thank you for joining us. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce your name, but thank you for joining us here in the chat. Hope you're doing well. Basquilino said, do you think all the egos and manicism in the industry, I don't know if that you... Manicism? I don't know how you pronounce that word. In the industry would have been subcultured when the streaming era of products rolled around. I honestly have no idea what you're asking. Do you think all the egos in manicism, I don't know how to pronounce that, in the industry would have subcultured? I don't know what you're asking there. I don't think what would that have mattered when the streaming era of products rolled around? What do you mean, as far as like money wise, them getting like payouts and shit? I mean, the egos are still the same thing as they were even decades ago. There will always be egos in pro wrestling, whether there's streaming or not. There's still a lot of egos in wrestling even today without pay-per-view payouts and shit like that. I'm not sure if that's your question, but if it is, that's your answer. Johnny said, Ken Shamrock versus Mike Bailey in an MMA style fight, or Ken Shamrock versus Kurt Angle in a submission match. Totally Shamrock and Kurt in submission match. I like Mike Bailey, but Shamrock and Angle, much better. If you have a choice between Mike Bailey and Kurt Angle, who are you picking? Nathaniel said, is your WrestleMania prediction this week? My WrestleMania prediction show is on Thursdays, WrestleRant Radio. Not sure the time will be in Vegas, but our WrestleMania predictions will be up this week. If you can't catch the show live, I'll also be putting up the excerpts of the Mania predictions, at least the biggest matches from both nights here on the channel. This weekend, the day of each night. I missed this earlier, but someone asked what my favorite... Nathaniel asked earlier, do you have a favorite part in the Minecraft movie? No, it was all awful, but the chicken jockey thing, I've seen the memes of it, actually, since we saw the movie. I didn't really understand what people yelled at in the theater when we were there last Tuesday, but hearing that after the fact... seeing the videos was pretty funny, so I guess that. Richie said, my wife showed me a meme from Reddit. Someone took a photo of an adult toy, and the caption said, ran into Austin areas, glad to see he's doing okay. I think about that a lot. That's really funny. Yeah, he just disappeared off the face of the wrestling world, really. I know, like I said, he popped up in MLW recently on commentary, but beyond that, I have not seen him do anything. I think he was doing stuff in NWA like 3-4 years ago, which I totally forgot about until I was reminded of it because he was in MLW recently. Nathaniel said, was Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero brothers? No, they were not related at all. Fernando said Austin Aries he deserved better in WWE. I agree, but he might have been his own worst enemy. We don't really know the full story. I know I've heard his side of the story, but WWE might have their own story. Let's put it this way. He got fired at a time where WWE released nobody. They were not doing, rounds of... He got fired on his own. And he was at WrestleMania for the Cruiserweight Championship months earlier. He was fighting for the Cruiserweight title the month prior. They probably were just like, yeah, we just can't deal with this fucking guy. We're getting rid of him. Nathaniel said, I'm not sure when Liv turns on Dom. Yeah, I don't know either. It was crazy to see Demon Finn lose in Hollywood. Stupid. He should have won that match. Edge, yeah, that was dumb. Yeah, Richie did mention it. Did anyone else see the recent report where Edge said that he pitched for Balor to beat him at Mania? Yeah, I mean, if Edge wanted Balor to win, great. Edge winning that match was stupid. Edge winning that match was dumb. But if Edge wanted Balor to win and the only person who turned it down was Vince, then fuck Vince, because that made no sense. Grunt said, if you could book one more AEW match for Bryan Danielson in the next year or so, who would you book him against? He never beat Moxley in AEW. I don't really want, if I can only have one more match with Danielson, him finally beating Moxley would make sense given how Danielson left and how he never beat Moxley and how they kind of took him out, the whole suffocation thing. If there's only one match left, though, it wouldn't be that. Will Ospreay running it back with Ospreay would be awesome. Running it back with Swerve would be great because that match was great too. Either one of those guys beating Danielson, getting that win back would be great. So Swerve, Ospreay, who else is there though that Danielson didn't really work with? He worked with Adam Page a lot. Kenny Omega. He worked with Omega for that one match. Or Okada we've seen a few times as well, so not Okada. Yeah, Omega. Because they had that one match that ended in a draw, no decisive winner. That was his first match. If that ended up being his last match, then Omega. That's my answer. Let's see. Nathaniel said, Graham, do you wish AJ Styles would face Shawn Michaels? Yes, it's not happening now. The match now probably wouldn't be great, but they should have done it when they had the chance, like fucking a decade ago, 5, 6, 7 years ago, 8 years ago. Shawn didn't want to do it. He was proposed the idea. He said that before. Didn't want to do it. Didn't happen. Richie said David Arquette talking about the Team WCW. Of course, the former WCW World Heavyweight Champion. Nathaniel asked, did you like Paige versus Bella's feud? The Paige and Bella's feud? No. That was at a period in WWE's women's division where they were just cycling in the same 2 or 3 women because a lot of the other women left, quit, got fired, whatever. So it was like Paige versus the Bellas for like a fucking year. It was AJ, Paige, and the Bellas. It was like a recurring pattern of those 3 women, and then AJ left, so then it was just the Paige and the Bellas. It was they incorporated Naomi there for a little bit. It wasn't really until they called up the 4 Horsewomen, thank fucking God, that the women's division got a lot better. So the Paige and Bellas feud, I didn't give a shit about. The matches were fine. I didn't really care though. I really want Cena to retire as a heel. Dax said he will not. As long as he's a heel past Mania, that's all I really care about at this point, at least through SummerSlam. Having him go back babyface by Mania would be terrible. That would be awful. Richie said, Graham, he meant Tony Khan. I thought he meant Cope being on the spectrum too. Oh, okay. Yeah. Tony Khan being on the spectrum? Yeah, I could see that. Totally. Tony Khan, Graham. Yeah, I still think Tony Khan is on the spectrum. That makes that makes sense. I was going to say, why are you talking about Cope being on the spectrum? That makes no sense. A dream match, champion versus champion match would have been Vince versus David Arquette, Johnny said. 5-star classic. Basquilino said, Basquilino, what are you talking about? You're just saying that your questions make no sense. I won't even read it. Send me a question that makes sense and I'll read it and attempt to answer it. Johnny said, Brian, I mean, he must be in the same camp as, who the fuck was here earlier that asked the stupid question? I say this to Alexis all the time. We should have like a PNG of a garbage can here on the show. Because I say to Alexis whenever, all due respect, I don't know if she's still here. She might be listening, but isn't in the chat. Whenever a stupid question is asked, I go, throw it in the stupid pile. There's a lot of stupid questions. People will tell you there's never such thing as a stupid question, just a stupid person. I disagree with that. Completely disagree. Great people, smart people do ask stupid questions. I ask stupid questions. Everyone asks stupid questions. But when a stupid question is asked, I throw it in the stupid pile. So whatever that fucking question was, throw it in the stupid pile. Sorry, Basquilino. I appreciate you being here, but that's a stupid question. I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. Johnny said Danielson versus Jay White. Yeah, that'd be cool. For a last match, probably not. Fernando said, is it too late at this point for Sting to induct Lex Luger? Yes, because they already announced that DDP is doing it. So either Sting never asked Tony Khan or AEW said no. So yeah, I don't know what happened there. We don't know the full story. I know Tony Khan said recently that Sting never brought it up to him. Maybe Tony Khan would have allowed him to do it. Sting never asked. We don't know. But it's going to be DDP, which is fine, but it would have been cool if it was Sting, because I know that's what Luger wanted. Ahmed said, Graham was reported that Vince was the one that changed plans and had Edge beat Finn Balor. Demon Balor. I know, I read that. Yeah, no, I was going off that report. I know what you're talking about. If that's true, which I think it is because it came from Fightful, they're usually pretty credible. It's pretty stupid. You said this too, which we already knew, report or no report, yeah. Vince, even at that point when he came back, had enough say apparently where he was able to change outcomes. So, yeah, that sucked. Grunt said, yeah, hard agree. We need a Danielson Omega match on pay-per-view with no ad breaks. I agree, Grunt. That would be the perfect All-In match. I think they were going to do that at All-In a year or two ago, and then plans changed. I would have wanted... Basculino, you're saying you're sorry. I kid. I just want your questions to make sense. I appreciate you being here, but you just need... can you explain what the fuck you're talking... Are you the new Tyreek? Tyreek would ask weird questions, too. But yeah, if they do Omega and Osprey too, but Omega in which they did do already, but Omega and Bryan at All In one of these years, that would be awesome. Alvin and Love Ziggler might be a great match, Richie. I agree. That might be a great match. Who would have won Triple H and Shawn had it happened? AJ Styles. Shawn would not have won that match. If it happened in 2017 when AJ was WWE champion, especially, AJ was winning. Shawn did not need to win, but I would have been happy if the match happened. Especially based on Shawn's performance at Crown Jewel 2018, we know the match could have been good because Shawn still had it even in 2018. 8 years removed from his final match, he still was very good. That was the best part of that Crown Jewel disaster. What are your top 5 worst Mania matches? Oh, I have no idea. There's so many bad ones. There's so many great ones, but it's easier to say the best because there's so many bad ones that we just don't remember. Like, I don't know. I have no idea. I'm trying to think, like the Roman matches I mentioned earlier were not great. Are they the worst matches? Maybe. I'll tell you two of the worst ones right here. Jerry Lawler and Michael Cole for Mania 27 was a fucking abomination. I mean, Pat McAfee and Austin Theory was actually a fun match at Mania 38. Vince and Pat, the impromptu match that happened right afterward, that was fucking garbage. Even if it was brief, that was one of the worst matches I've ever seen. There's been a lot of women's matches. When we watched WrestleMania 26 a couple of weeks ago, there was like a women's tag match, a 10-woman tag match that ended in like 90 seconds. That was pretty bad. A lot of those lingerie pillow fights, a lot of that shit fucking sucked. So, a lot of bad matches in Mania's history. Those are a few of them. Is Pascalino Tyreek in disguise? He might be. Alexis is here, just super busy. Alexis said, it's true, he buries me all the time. I may have a 3.9 GPA, but according to him, I ask a lot of stupid questions. That is not true. You do not ask a lot of stupid questions. If you do ask a stupid question, I put it in there. I ask stupid questions too. But I preface it when I ask a stupid question to someone. I say, I have a stupid question, but ... I probably ask more stupid questions than Alexis does. But, she doesn't ask a lot of dumb questions, but when she does, I got to call her out for it. When you got to be called out, you got to get called out. Whether it's Bascolino, Alexis, or myself, you got to be held accountable. Richie said, nah, I'm laughing my ass off at my desk. I did not mean to bury the poor fellow. He may never come back. That might be why Tyreek doesn't come back, because we buried him too many times. He's not in on the joke. Dax said, thoughts on Cena not changing his gear and theme? Not a fan. I think he should have. If you really want to go all in with the heel turn, change the theme and the heel. Change the gear in the theme to be a heel, which people have told me, oh, it could be coming at some point. I'm not. If they were going to do it, they would have done it already. They still could. I'm not convinced that he will. Hopefully he does. I don't think he will. Johnny said, I miss Jay White in New Japan. That was prime Jay White. He's good in AEW, but his booking is all over the place, and he got injured, and he's just not had a great string of luck in the last 2 years. I wish Jay White had gone to WWE instead. Honestly, I feel like he would have been a better fit for WWE and had more success there. But we'll never know. He could still go there down the road. But I'm talking when he was a free agent in 2023. But the timing didn't work out because Vince had just come back. They weren't hiring anyone. That sucked. I miss Tyreek as well, Richie. I miss Tyreek too. Hopefully he comes back at some point. Johnny said, Bryan Danielson versus Darby Allin in a Seattle death match. No thank you. Does not need a death match stipulation. A regular match, sure. Death match, you see enough of that shit, no thanks. And Darby might actually die. Fernando said, who do you think should be Goldberg's last match? I know they teased Gunther. I'd be fine with Gunther. I think Braun Breaker gains more from it being Braun Breaker. And the match might actually be better. Because I think Braun Breaker's explosiveness might make for a better match. I just can't take Goldberg seriously against Gunther. Because I feel like Gunther, realistically, should just fucking murder the guy. You know what I mean? Like, he should just squash him, and that's not really what Goldberg wants. He wants, like, a match. If you want to give him a match, then give him Braun Breaker, and Braun Breaker wins. That's it. Hey, Richie even said maybe he returns, maybe Tyreek returns during the hashtag AskGSM After Mania edition. You're right. Maybe he will. There's a chance. Maybe he'll be one of the post-WrestleMania surprises next Wednesday here on the show. Daniel even asked, where is Tyreek? He might be Bascolino in disguise, or he's just lurking in the shadows. I'm more convinced of the latter. Grunt said, should AEW help New Japan more by maybe being a middleman for indies and free agents to get booked in Japan? That would be nice, but AEW doesn't really gain anything from that, which is why they're probably not going to do it. They really have not helped New Japan a whole lot at all. This whole working relationship between the two sides would have been nice. And it has been nice. It's made for some fun shows, but it's not really something I overly give a shit about, to be perfectly honest with you. At this point, like some of the matches, I mean, New Japan, how many stars do they really have left at this point? But what you suggested would be cool. Johnny said Dominic versus MJF or Drew McIntyre versus Hangman Page. Ooh, definitely Drew and Hangman. I mean, Dominic is the worst worker of those four by a wide margin. Drew and Hangman would be a much better match, but I like Dominic though. No Ellis here saying, I mean, heel Cena has the theme already made. I'm surprised he hasn't used it yet. I mean, you're talking from like 10 plus years ago. If that's what you're talking about, we don't know. First of all, Noel, thanks for joining us. Second of all, we don't know if he would use that. We don't know if he's able to. That might have fit his character 10 years ago, but not now. So I don't know. But yeah, we'll never know what theme he was going to use because he never used it. And it would be nice if he did now, but he just doesn't seem like he wants to. Johnny said Rhea versus Megan Bayne or Tony versus Bayley. Tony and Bayley. I like Megan Bayne. We've been over this. Richie knows this. I'm not the biggest Megan Bayne fan. I think she's very good. I think the lack of like physical charisma that she has, she looks like she has a great look and she has a great presence about her. But like, I don't know. I feel like when the Tony Storm feud is over, I'm kind of worried about her future. And I don't think it's over completely yet. I feel like they might be continuing it, which is why I said it's not over yet. But yeah, probably Tony and Bayley. Nathaniel said Goldberg should not win his last match. No, he should not. Unless he's facing like another Dolph Ziggler type like he did at SummerSlam 2019. Him beating Gunther or Braun Breaker or whatever would be fucking dumb. If they want to have him beat fucking Kofi Kingston or some shit, fine. But otherwise, yeah, no, he should not win his last match. He might want to. But unless it makes sense to do so against an opponent that makes sense, then no, he should not. Go out on your back, Bill. Basquino asking, who is Tyreek? Tyreek is a legend. Tyreek is the purveyor of Love Ziggler. Tyreek is good. Tyreek is God. Do your research on Tyreek. Tyreek is you might be Tyreek. Basquino, you're asking who Tyreek is. We are convinced that you might be Tyreek. That's the problem. You ask very similarly confusing questions like Tyreek. Josh, thank you for joining us. Said, Cena changing his gear is what the fans want. He's a heel, so him not changing it is the right thing to do. I disagree because I know that's what he said. Does it make sense? Yes. But if that was the case, then Roman Reigns, everyone wanted him to change his theme, his fucking attire in 2020. What if he just stuck with the Shield shit? That would have been fucking terrible. You need to evolve. You can't have the same, I know he's had the same theme and the same music for 20 years now, but now he's evolved. He's not going to change his music. Fuck that. Stupid. I think that's so lazy. I think that explanation that he used on Raw a couple of weeks ago, they only did that because they want to continue to sell merch. And honestly, he may not be a heel for long. That might be another reason. So I disagree. I know that's what he said on Raw. I know that's what people are going to eat up, and they're going to think that's brilliant. I think it's fucking lazy. I think it's stupid. He really should have changed the theme and the attire and everything. Go all in with it. He'll never be a heel again. He's never been a heel before. At least not in the last 20 years as a main event player. Why wouldn't you embrace it? Coming out, doing the same shtick, looking like a fucking fifth grader in arts and crafts class. I can't take the guy seriously. He looks like an idiot. And that's not supposed to be the point. Dax said, what match is going to be the worst match in Mania? I think the women's tag stuff will suck. I disagree. I think the women's tag match will be great. Liv is busting her ass right now. Liv is like the MVP of that women's division still, even now. I think that women's tag match will be good. I could see New Day and Raiders being flat. I could see, I don't know, I'm trying to think. What other matches are there? What match will be the worst? I could see Tiffany and Charlotte being a train wreck. I still think the match will be good, so I'm not going to say that one. There might be weak matches. I don't think there will be any bad matches. At least I hope not. I really hope not. It won't be the women's tag, though. I think the women's tag will be fun. I don't know. Maybe Ray and Americano, but I feel like that will be a great match, too, just given who's involved. So I don't know. Not really sure. Goldberg versus Fiend was bad. No, that shit was awful. That shit sucked. Johnny asked, Seth versus Swerve or Gunther versus Kyle? Seth and Swerve. I like Kyle Fletcher, but Seth and Swerve are too much bigger stars. Gunther and Kyle Fletcher currently feels like a Raw match, although it would be good. Seth and Swerve feels like a pay-per-view main event. Nathaniel, if Bayley turns heel again, then I wonder if she'll feud with Michael Cole. Probably. They'll probably go back to that. Daniel said, if he faces Alvin, then Goldberg should win. Yes, I agree with that too. Richie said Goldberg versus William Regal one last time. Hey, sign me the fuck up. Any Regal match, even at 55 years old, however old he is now, I don't give a shit. I'm the biggest mark for that shit. Will versus Sheamus or Omega versus Priest? Will and Sheamus. I like Priest, but Priest is easily the worst, not worst, but like the weakest worker of those four. Sheamus and Will would be awesome. Fernando asked, who is more likely to show up in Mania, Aleister Black, Rusev, or Cobb? Probably Aleister Black, because they're already putting the vignettes together for him. Although they've been airing on SmackDown, so I feel like he's coming back on the SmackDown after Mania. But he could show up on SmackDown this week, be revealed as Orton's opponent, and then face him at Mania. The problem with that, though, is that Aleister should win. Orton should win. So that's why I wouldn't do that match. I wouldn't hate the match. The match would be good. But I feel like Orton should win. And I don't want Aleister to lose. So, I feel like the most likely, though, is probably Black. Rusev probably re-signed with WWE later than Black did. And Cobb is still, like, in New Japan as of right now. So that's just not going to happen. Not going to happen right now. Nathaniel said, I like Reigns' new theme. I love his new theme. Gives me Avengers vibes. I know people like the other theme better, the head of the table theme more. I understand that. That theme is awesome, too. It's perfect for him as a heel. It doesn't work with him as a babyface. His current theme is fucking sick. When he first used it at Mania last year, best WrestleMania entrance I've ever seen. In person or otherwise. It's my favorite one. Amazing. Goosebumps. Grunt said, thoughts on Cena bringing back the spinner if he wins the title? That makes sense, because it's like he's a heel. We don't like the spinner. It's garbage. So therefore, he brings it back temporarily. I like that. We saw the spinner belt on SmackDown last week in that segment with Cody Rhodes, which was cool that he brought back all the classic belts. I think Cena should bring back the spinner. They can sell some belts. They can sell some Cena jerseys. I think that'd be cool. I think that the spinner belt was garbage, but that's the reason why he should bring it back temporarily if he's supposed to be a heel. He's doing something different. It's different than him keeping the same gear and the same theme. I feel like that's lazy. Johnny said, Willow versus Bianca or Chris versus Charlotte? Bianca and Willow. For sure. I don't know if Charlotte would be willing to do the job to Chris Statlander, so I'm going to go Bianca and Willow. Shida versus Asuka or Io versus Riho. I really don't care about Riho. I know she's a good worker. I don't give a fuck about her, to be honest with you. I never really have. So definitely Shida and Asuka. Fernando said Tyreek versus Alexis inside of a steel cage. Love Ziggler as guest ref. Money. That's money. Absolutely. With a run-in DQ finish from Alvin. But you got to have like a fucking... These are like our Avengers. Love Ziggler, Tyreek, Alvin, Veer. These are our WrestleRant Avengers here. I got to write this shit down so we don't forget it. Got to have Alvin in there for sure, Daniel said. I agree. Nathaniel said, do you like The Rock's People belt, and should he defend it? No. The belt that he debuted last year at the Hall of Fame, the fact that he even had it was dumb, and defending it would be even worse. WWE needs less belts, not more. Every company needs less belts, not more. So, absolutely not. We're going to wind down here, folks. We're going to call it a day. It's been about 2.5 hours. It is WrestleMania week. I have a lot of stuff I got to do before I fly out for Vegas in a day, which is why the show next week, as another reminder, will very likely be next Wednesday. I will gather the questions from Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube on Tuesday, most likely. I'll try, probably Wednesday morning. My point is I'll put out the posts asking for questions on those various platforms on Facebook and X on Tuesday. And then we'll be live again on a Wednesday for the first time in a couple of months next Wednesday, because we'll be flying all day on Tuesday. I just don't think it makes sense to do a show on Tuesday. So very likely the show will be next Wednesday. Don't know the time. Keep an eye out for that. The show on Thursday as well, WrestleRant Radio this week. Hoping to do a show when we get to Vegas on Wednesday. The show will be on Thursday. Don't know the time yet. We'll be on West Coast time, so we'll figure it out. If I have an update, I'll probably post about it in the community tab, so keep an eye out on that. Hopefully Mr. Marceau can join us for that show. It'll be the massive WrestleMania prediction panel. So keep an eye out for that episode coming up on Thursday. An on-site episode from Vegas. Very excited for that. First time ever, I believe. Although I may have done WrestleRant Radio from Vegas a few years ago. I don't remember. Regardless, that'll be coming up on Thursday this week. Other content coming out this week, our Dark Side of the Ring episode on Tony Atlas coming out probably sometime this weekend. WrestleRant Radio excerpts, if you can't catch the full show. Our predictions from some of the biggest matches at Mania 41, Night 1, Night 2, coming out this weekend. My WrestleMania 9 Becoming a Spectacle review, probably out on Friday. #GSM for GM episode 3, season 4, out tomorrow here on the channel. And just as a reminder, if you're a channel member, you get most of these videos early and ad-free before everyone else. For just $5 a month, please consider signing up, becoming a member. If you do so during one of these streams, everyone gets notified, so just a heads up on that front. But if you sign up for a channel membership, what I like to call the WrestleRant All Access Pass, you get early ad-free access to certain videos throughout the week, hours before everyone else, and ad-free before, I put the ads on for everyone else a few hours later. You not only get that, but for a show like this on #AskGSM, if you send in a question ahead of time, I will give you top billing for the show. Not necessarily put it in the headline, but I'm saying I'll answer your question first, regardless of how you send it in. I'll answer it before anyone else's here on this show. And on WrestleRant Radio, you get top billing for a topic. So if you want us to discuss something specifically, you can send in whatever you want us to talk about on those respective live streams, and we'll talk about that stuff first. So you get that stuff. If you notice in the chat, Richie has a belt next to his name. I'll get to him in a moment. He became a channel member today here on this stream. You can become a channel member and get a WrestleRant badge next to your name and unlock access to exclusive emojis here in the chats on the live streams. You get members-only live streams that we are doing here on the channel. So I don't know when the next one of those will be, but probably soon. Our Discord, I'll open up that to everyone very soon as well. Probably next week after Mania is over. Just a lot of stuff I have to do before then, so Discord access, started one of those. I will allow everyone access that's a channel member very soon. I'll probably announce that on the community tab here on the channel if you're interested in that sort of thing. And yeah, you'll get shout outs at the beginning and end of every single live stream if you become a WrestleRant All Access Pass channel member. You will be credited in the description box of every video as well as a WrestleRant All Access Pass producer. That includes Alexis, Miss Maud Matthews, obviously here on the chat with us today. Dillon, DiGiacomo, Mrs. Renee, DJ Swerve 1. Find him on the Twitter machine at Swerve 1 on IG. Daniel Malcolm at I'm Quarter on X. You can find him on Twitter. Daniel Malcolm is here, of course. Find him on the Twitter machine. Letter I, letter M, Quarter on X. RJ Marceau, Mr. Marceau, of course, RJ Marceau, at RJ_Marceau on X as well. Richie became a channel member today. Check out his channel. Click on his name in the chat. I'll write down his socials and his YouTube channel. He has a great thing going there as well. So Richie's always got awesome insight on the product and obviously great content here on YouTube. So check out his channel. I'll write down that stuff for the next live stream that we do so I can plug it here at the end of these streams. And last but not least, Mr. John Ritland. Find him on YouTube, Mr. John Ritland at Reborn Again on Twitter. Or at just Reborn Again, not Mr. Reborn Again. But find him on X and on YouTube, Real Honesty with John Ritland. And that does it, folks. Like we said earlier, I know a lot of you guys responded positively to it, but stay tuned for this weekend. Maybe, not confirmed. I'll talk more about it on Thursday's WrestleRant Radio. But maybe. We might be doing a watch-along live stream with Alexis during WrestleMania. So for those interested, if you want to stick around here on the channel, I'll give her access to my account, obviously. I'll have my own laptop, and we'll see what she can do. Because she might not be going to Mania. I will be. She won't be. She'll be in the hotel at Vegas, but we're still not completely sure yet. If she does go to Mania, then no live stream, obviously. But we got to figure it out. We'll figure it out. We'll try to. And if she does go live, then you guys can join her here for a watch-along of Night 1 and Night 2 of WrestleMania coming up this weekend in Vegas, which would be a lot of fun. And I'll be in the chat. Can't be there live. I'll be at Mania itself, but I'll be in the chat. So keep an eye out for that. As part of the WrestleRant Avengers, I forgot about Ava, Daniel. You're right. Ava, too. Ava's also in that conversation. Muhammad Ali's wife gifted me with his custom championship title. Shut up, Dwayne. I agree, Richie. Better belt, spinner belt, the Smoking Skull, or the People's Champ belt, Fernando said. Easily Smoking Skull. Is that even a question? Not even a question. Johnny said, can you do the you can't see me gesture? There you go, Johnny. I'll give it to you for free. We need an Ava Rain 4 Roots 1 Tree custom title on WWE Shop. Those would sell out too quickly, Richie. You're giving them ideas. You're welcome for the shout out, and congrats, Richie, Fernando said. Fernando said, I am very interested to join Alexis on a watch-along. Glad to hear, Fernando. Hope you can join it. If we do it this weekend, she would be the perfect person to host one. And if we do it, it'll be coming up this weekend. So keep an eye out for that. But yeah, that's going to do it, guys. Enjoy WrestleMania week. A lot of content going up here on the channel. A lot of stuff happening in general. Potentially more interviews as well that we'll get while we're in Vegas. It's going to be very busy next couple of days, so bear with us. But if everything works out, it should be very fun next week. So until next time, guys, if you want to send in a question to the show, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Drop a comment on the post I usually put up on Monday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video. After it's done processing, after the chat is closed, I'll include your question in next week's episode. Thank you so much for everyone who joined us here today in the chat, whether it was for a little while, the entire time. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Enjoy WrestleMania week. Like the video on the way out and subscribe as well for more daily content and to be notified for every time we go live and every time we drop a new video by hitting the bell button. Until next time, folks, I'm Graham GSM Matthews. Once again, happy WrestleMania week, and we'll catch your ass down the road.